Hey guys, Pete here. Better Call Saul is over. It is definitely, we have definitely seen the final episode. And in my mind, it was a very satisfying conclusion. I brought a couple of my friends in here today, and we might be joined by one or two more as we go. So we could talk about it and sort of see where we landed. I thought it was a masterpiece, just straight out. I was a little bit surprised to see that some of some of the comments were on the negative side, but I kind of get it too, because what I liked about it, what impressed me the most was just like how completely intentional it felt. And I was completely wrapped up in like each different stage of the finale, and every kind of twist and the way that the characters, like, I wasn't exactly sure what was going through their heads, but every decision that they made, it seemed like it felt right. And that's really satisfying because I like, TV. What I like about TV, I guess, is that you have all this time to develop characters. So, my favorite TV shows, those are the ones that really use that to their advantage to you know, make me feel something and make me, like, feel really comfortable with these people and watching what they do. And Better Call Saul puts them in positions where what they're doing is very kind of uncomfortable and challenging. And so I really appreciated the way it felt. Like it knew what it wanted to do. It felt like, don't worry, I got this, just follow me, I'm going to show you how this is going to go down. And then it but at the same time, I guess it didn't. It was a lot of it was in my head. It was cerebral. It wasn't as emotional as maybe I was expecting, or maybe not even as entertaining on some levels. Like, not in the way that this show can be at times. It was more understated, I guess, might be the way to say it. But I loved it. It was just so satisfying, the way that it played out. And yeah, so I guess that's sort of where I'm at. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, tell me what you thought about it, and then we'll circle back around. So go ahead, Gil.
Hey, thanks, Pete. So I'm Gil from the One Take YouTube channel and the Saulcast podcast. And I would pretty much echo everything you just said. I thought this episode and the last few episodes have been masterpieces. And with this conclusion, I think we can call the series as a whole a masterpiece. And I think with Jimmy and Kim, there have been times during the series where I was frustrated by them or disappointed in them, but I never got to a point where I hated either of them. So coming into the finale, I still had a lot of empathy for both, especially Kim after her confession that I wanted the happiest possible ending for these characters within the confines of the choices that they've made. And I loved the time travel motif because it's so appropriate here. They have made choices, taken things away from people that without a time machine can't be given back. So a happy ending today looks very different than what it may have looked like 10 years ago for Jimmy or Kim. So I think they got to the happiest possible ending in a way that didn't feel cheap or sappy. Saul had to pay for the crimes he committed. And Courtney, we talked about this before going live, but bringing Marie back was, I thought, a stroke of brilliance because she means so much to us as viewers. And here she almost acts as a representative for all the damage that Saul caused and makes it a lot more personal. You know, you can ask, what crimes did Saul Goodman commit? And you can list out the rap sheet, which they did to a certain extent in this episode. But seeing her made it, and getting to hear from her made it a lot more personal. And it reminds you that there is no happy ending if Jimmy doesn't suffer the consequences of his actions. And what I wanted, though, okay, he has to suffer the consequences, but I also wanted him to sort of get his soul back. I wanted him to take off the Saul Goodman mask and become Jimmy McGill. But what does it take to make that happen? I kept thinking maybe he needs to hit rock bottom, and that's when you decide you need to get help. And I sort of felt like he hit rock bottom We saw him circling the drain last couple of episodes. He got to a point where he's getting ready to strangle Carol Burnett, and I thought, this is rock bottom. He let her hit the life alert button, and he's running out the door. But that wasn't enough. He went right back into Saul Goodman. He won the case against the United States basically by getting his sentence down to 7 years. But the last thing he needed was to see the correct behavior modeled by Kim. At least that's the way I interpreted it. I think it's a little more complicated, but on the surface, once he heard that Kim confessed in a seemingly totally unselfish action, she has nothing to gain from that on the surface. I think he needed to see that. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more as we get into it. And I didn't see that coming. You know, I never liked framing it as Kim needs to save Jimmy, but I did always think that one way or another, she would have to be involved if he was going to be saved. And what they showed wasn't what I expected, but in retrospect made total sense to me. So I guess that's the bottom line for me, is I got the ending I wanted in a totally satisfying but unexpected way. So I walked away very satisfied. I want to say happy, but even again, before we turned the mics on, I was not sure if that's what I was feeling. It was very bittersweet. So very satisfied with the conclusion.
Yeah, and there, I think there's some challenging parts in there where it's like I'm still processing it, even like full. What are we, like 24 hours later at this point? There's things that I think that if I go back and watch it in 2 weeks or 6 months, I might fully interpret it a little differently. Especially because you were talking about the time machine and the idea. What I like about that idea is that it's a silly question. It's not pointless necessarily for the reasons that Walt says that it is, but it's pointless because you could always go back a step further. You know what I mean? Like if you do that thought experiment and you think you have the perfect thing, then why not go one step further and go somewhere else and change something else? You know what I mean? So you could just go on forever and you would never be able to actually pinpoint anything. But whenever it came up and whenever Chuck came back, I really liked the idea of him being his answer to the time, and Jimmy's answer to the time machine question being that I would have stayed there and I would have had that conversation with Chuck. Maybe that would be the thing that he would change. Mm-hmm. And since then I've thought of a couple of different ways that could play out too. So I don't want to totally go off the rails here. I will let you introduce yourself, Courtney. Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Courtney of Courtney's Reviews. I also really loved this episode. It did hit me on a deep emotional level. So as Gil sort of alluded, we were chatting a little bit before the stream began. And for me, it was when seeing Marie was when the tears started and pretty much didn't stop flowing until the end. And I really think it was necessary to bring it back, a character that we were so attached to remind us of just how heinous his crimes were. So that way we would accept the ultimate conclusion of him serving time. So because I feel like there wasn't a problem, I would say, with the show, but like if you didn't watch Breaking Bad, maybe you're not as familiar with everything that this character did in Breaking Bad. So like reading off all of the crimes and having Marie there as a representative of that trauma, I think was really, really important, just again, to really drive that home. And for me, I also really loved the time travel motif. And to me, it felt very Dickensian. So it almost felt like kind of like A Christmas Carol, where he goes to the past to visit ghosts, and he's visited by 3 ghosts, right? At that point, 3 men who are dead that were important to him. And the line that really stood out to me was in his conversation with Chuck, where Chuck says to him, if you don't like where you're heading, you can always change your path. And I think that was the realization for him, maybe not at that moment, but maybe in reflecting upon that you can't change your past, but you can change your path. And that also sort of ties in with like bad choice roads and good choice roads and things like that. And I have a lot to say about it. I don't want to keep talking too much right now, but it satisfied. It definitely satisfied. It ticked off all of my boxes and met all of my expectations. Plus, really enjoyed it. Great finale.
Yeah, and like I said, I could see I could see that some people might not like this. It almost feels like a second season added on after, you know, the proper story of Better Call Saul ended in 609. I could kind of see that. I mean, not because I would agree with it or think that this is like even you know, like that it would be quite close to as good as it is having had this, you know what I mean? But it's a big shift. And you know, you brought up A Christmas Carol, and that's one of the first things that I saw when I was reading, you know, Peter Gould's interviews yesterday. You know, he described it that way. He said, you know, the three ghosts of Christmas past, with Mike, Walt, and Chuck. And that I thought that was just fantastic, like way to structure this last, you know, episode where you know, I kind of wanted it to come back into, I kind of wanted it to come back from black and white, you know, because we'd been there for so long, except for the flashbacks. But it's not the way that the story ended, you know, the color didn't come back. And so, you know, it needed to end in black and white. So I like that those, you know, three scenes that were in color were, you know, with these other giants that were from the series, and in, you know, the way that they crossed paths and helped him, you know, maybe not like directly, maybe not like actively in what was happening in his story, but you know, through that we see how he kind of gets to where he's going to make that decision to you know, finally look at what he's done, the part that he's played in it, and you know, try to go in a different direction. So let me see. I guess there's quite a few questions here. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to, you know, answer them right and as they came in, but I'm going to try to hit on a couple of other things as we go. And if you guys feel like that, I know you both said that you can't stay too long. If there's some things that you want to get in there, just whenever we're doing this, just sort of interject those as we answer the ones that we're talking about here. So Paradiddle 44, thank you for the 10. It has been quite a ride. Thank you for all that you do. I can see that being Kim and Jimmy's last moment together, but assuming he can receive conjugal visits, I like to think she visits sometimes. You know, the conjugal visit aside, I thought it was a little bit weird that they didn't, you know, they picked they made up a fictional penitentiary, so we don't really know where he is necessarily. I mean, I guess you could say by looking at the yard, you know, that they use that he's somewhere, you know, maybe in the Rockies or something like that. But I mean, you know, it's not really clear if that's a one-time visit, you know, that, or if that's something they can do again. And I thought it was a really interesting choice to have her, you know, because it felt like whenever you saw it, it felt like, okay, she's a lawyer again. But I guess maybe that wouldn't even be possible in the amount of time that passed or something. And she just used her card that didn't expire. So I thought that was an interesting choice to have her, you know, do that one last little thing where she snuck in basically, and it really made it feel like maybe this is the only time they'll see each other, or it won't be a regular thing either way, you know.
It's funny how that scene has acted as a kind of litmus test, because my younger brother Adam, he watched the scene and had a very romantic and optimistic read, saying they're back together. Like, that's it. They're going to be as together as possible given the circumstances. I read it differently. I said I didn't think it was their last visit together, but now that he is Jimmy McGill again, Kim calls him Jimmy, and she can finally look at him and see a human being rather than this husk of a person. I figured that she would want to keep him as a part of her life, but at the same time, I do think she's starting a new chapter. She's volunteering at the legal services place, and I gotta think that that is the first seed planted that eventually leads to her practicing law again. That's my interpretation. But I could see a scenario where once a year or every once in a while, she checks in on Jimmy. I don't see why she wouldn't. But I know a lot of people did read that as the final interaction between them. So I think it's interesting. I've seen the gamut of different interpretations.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't really matter in a way. I think what matters is that it was enough for him. Like, he didn't feel like, he made the wrong choice by following through with that, and and doing the right thing, not because he was going to get something out of it, not because he was going to get Kim back, or because it was going to solve some problem for her even, but just because it was the right thing to do. And then when she showed up, that validated that.
Right.
That was that little bit of validation that, like, yeah, that is an honorable thing you did. It was worthwhile. Can't really say what's going to come after that, but good on you for doing it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I just pulled up. I was looking for this because I saved it earlier. Something that Ray said about her take on the end of the show. So she said that because she's a hopeless romantic, she thinks that this will also apply to how she handles her relationship with Jimmy, and that she's going to go through a very complicated process of trying to figure out if she can help decrease his sentence in a way that is still just. And I don't think that's the last time they'll see each other, not by a long shot, but that's me. And I think other people will think, well, that's the last day, that's it. So I personally love that they left it open to interpretation. I agree that it's probably not the last time that they're going to ever see each other, but I also would be satisfied if it were.
Yeah, I guess that's my question, and Chase is here now, so he can join in on this too. Yeah, but I guess that would be the question, with the way that it played out. I mean, she, what I would like to see is, I would like, for her to like you said, Gil, just sort of follow up where she was at, rebuild. I mean, I think that you can see that they go in different speeds, like whenever we go back to Florida, which, I think she's still there. So if you think about it, this prison is definitely not in Florida. It could be any number of places, but it's not in sunny Florida near where she lives. So there is at least some sort of boundary in her, like, visiting regularly or whatever. But yeah, like, where do it seems like, Saul, he had this, Jimmy, he had this thing where he could turn in an instant, from one of his personas to the other. I think with Kim, when we went back, we saw that she did the right thing. She unburdened herself, and she was willing to take responsibility for what she did, but it wasn't an overnight thing where she just became Kim Wexler that we knew for 5 seasons before that. She still had a little bit of a hard time giving an opinion whenever they showed her at lunch, but she moved into volunteering, you know what I mean, to go back to where she might think that she's okay to help people again, which would be fantastic. So I kind of want her to just follow her own trajectory there, even though at the same time I completely want them to be together, because I really enjoy it when they are. I mean, not together, obviously, he's going to be locked up, but I mean, it's like, I don't know how much I really want them to be focused on each other, whereas they both have their own stuff to deal with, I guess. Hey, Chase, are you here?
Yep, I'm here, just listening along.
Hey,
how's it going, guys?
It's going good. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Vivid Kiwi here, Chase. Glad to join in. I was just listening along to the great opinions you guys had about Kim. I do like how they left it open-ended. I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. I do wonder what's in store for her character next. I don't know if we'll ever see anything, but I do like how they kept it open-ended. And I do think it's interesting how she's sort of reverting back, or at least transforming into a new version of herself and starting to be okay with making decisions again. I'm not too sure if we ever will see anything more in regards to this, but I honestly would like to see some sort of like El Camino-esque like Kim movie in the future, something like that. Just have to wait and see if they ever return to the universe or not, because on one hand, it does feel like a conclusive ending, but on the other hand, there's definitely a lot more that they could take this. So, yeah.
Either of you guys want to chime in on that, or should we move on to the next question?
Well, selfishly, I would love to see more, but at the same time, like I feel like this was a really great ending. I don't think it's necessary, and I would be afraid that, well, I don't think they could ruin anything, but I don't know. I need to still think about it.
Did you see, as I know you mentioned you were reading through the Peter Gould interviews today, but I forget which publication it was, but there was one where the first like 4 questions of the interview were, so you've got to be thinking about a Kim spinoff, right? And he's like, oh, no, I don't know.
I didn't see that one.
It was pretty funny. They were pushing really hard for it.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I like you put it really well. Selfishly, I would like to have that, but a good ending is hard to come by, and doing it twice, that's twice as hard. So
yeah,
I want to see as much Ray Seahorn as I can get. You know what I mean? She's an incredible talent, and this is a great character, but sometimes, I mean, all good things come to an end, which is the reality of how this stuff all works. Jackie Cavendish, thank you for the $5. I noticed that Jimmy was wearing a ribbon on the lapel of his shiny suit. Any idea what it represented and supported? This is a Breaking Bad reference. This is Wayfarer 515. Is that what it was called? Anybody?
Sure.
There's a plane crash. It's a very kind of complicated story for me to. It's a big part of season 2 of Breaking Bad. It has to do with some of the characters that are in Walt and Jesse's orbit and their family, and there's a big disaster. It's a really intense storyline that's there, and afterwards, Saul, being the kind of predatory guy he sees an opportunity to put together a big case. So he has some commercials, and he wears the thing in memory of the people who died in that plane crash. Isaac Drum, thank you for the 20. That is very generous. Did Oakley blow his shot at naming a name for himself, or did Saul know that he would be a cream puff that he can push around? I don't know. I mean, I think that's probably open. I think when Saul called him, he did think he was giving him the chance to make a name for himself, and he did think that, like, he was right. I mean, they had them down to, like, it was like life plus multiple years, and they had him down to 7, to the point where I mean, he was just getting exactly what he wanted, and I don't think Oakley did anything. I think that he was fine in doing what he was there to do. It was just that Saul heard that Kim confessed, and then he changed his course, and therefore Oakley found himself signed up for the wrong team, kind of thing. I don't know.
That scene was hilarious when he started confessing, and Oakley's like, I request to withdraw from the case, and the judge was like, not a chance. That was so funny. It was great comedic relief having him there. So yeah, I think he was just he really, when Saul calls him and is like, you hit the jackpot, he really did, because like, had he gotten off with just 7 years, that would have been an incredible win for Oakley. So
he was one of my favorite surprises of the finale, because I really thought that seeing his picture on that bench with that, and learning he became a district attorney, I really thought that was kind of our farewell to him. In retrospect, I guess it feels like this was kind of telegraphed.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, maybe we should have expected it, but I definitely did not think he would be in it. And if he were, that he would play this big a role. And it was really nice seeing him again.
Yeah, he was sort of like the co-lead of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, he was the wingman in like most of Saul / Jimmy's story. Great opportunity for him. It's really cool. Okay, let's see here. Ibrahim, thank you for 737. Peter Gould said, by the time you finish watching BCS, you're going to see Breaking Bad in a very different light. according to you, how different is it? I'll let you guys go first here. You can just do like a one after the other down the line. How different is it for you now that you've seen the whole of Breaking or Better Call Saul?
Yeah, I'd say for me, I kind of see it different in two ways. One, the kind of obvious way is that now we know so much more about the person underneath Saul Goodman. So anytime he's on screen, there's going to be a sort of dark cloud where you know that there's a little Jimmy McGill trapped inside the subconscious of this scumbag. So his scenes are all going to be a little sadder. But I think the other way it changes it for me is that not only do we look at Saul differently, but this show also gave us another perspective to look at Breaking Bad through. We can now look at it through Saul Goodman's perspective and how he sees those events. The fact that he sees himself as pretty instrumental in Walter White's rise in power. And I don't say sees himself that way because I don't think it's true. Clearly, he was an important factor in that. But when Breaking Bad wrapped up, I never would have thought of it in those terms as, this was all thanks to Saul Goodman. But now we see that he views it that way, and I can see it from that perspective. And of course, that's very important to understand the choices that Jimmy's made. But yeah, so for me, the bottom line is I look at Saul differently, and now I feel like I also have the ability to kind of put on my Saul glasses and view the series through his eyes.
Yeah, well, to piggyback a little bit on what Gil said, of course, you see Saul differently, and we have that different perspective. But when they kept teasing like how like the end was going to change the way we saw it, my view was already changed. So leading up to the premiere of the second half, remember how they did the Breaking Bad marathon? So I was watching some of those older episodes, and I realized how differently I saw Mike in particular. And so having all that backstory about his son and his relationship with Nacho gave all this new context to his relationship, especially with Jesse. And also getting to know Gus better as well. So some of these other supporting characters from Breaking Bad, I have a deeper appreciation for, and also the Salamancas, of course, and the cartel in general. So the way I see Breaking Bad was already changed. So, and then this idea of seeing how Jimmy became Saul and it being the breakup that was really the tipping point for him. I don't know that it radically changed the way that I saw it. I was expecting something like that, certainly as we neared the end of the series, but it certainly makes it sadder. So I'll have to think about that question as I rewatch Breaking Bad, and see how I view Saul's behavior and actions, and see that colored through the trauma of what happened in these final few episodes.
They really did just hang a little bit more tragedy on every element of Breaking Bad. Any scene in the meth lab now, that Howard is down there next to Lalo for eternity. Anytime you look at the Salamancas or Mike, you'll think of Nacho, the blue flower in the rain. They just took everything and now anytime you see it, there's just a little bit more tragedy to think about that got you there.
Yeah. Do you feel differently about Walt now that you've seen the series and you've gotten to know all these other characters that he destroys?
Yeah, no, I definitely view him as a bulldozer. Like there were lives and there were all these things happening, and the entire time you're watching Better Call Saul, you just know that the Walter White bulldozer is coming.
Yeah.
At the end of all this.
Yeah, that was one of the things that really popped out whenever Kim returned to Albuquerque, and you see, 2 years of Walter White, and there's nobody left.
Right.
A lot of them disappeared during the Breaking Bad or during the Better Call Saul timeline, the Jimmy McGill timeline. But by the time she went back there, it's all gone. Everything, they built up so many different things, and there were so many different people involved, and they're just all wiped off the landscape of Albuquerque. What do you think, Chase? What do you see different?
Yeah, so I really love how much Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad really complement themselves, and knowing the context of everything that happens in Better Call Saul, I'm really excited to rewatch Breaking Bad again and just notice all the small, minute details. I really love how much they reference season 2, episode 8, Saul's first episode, throughout the entirety of Better Call Saul, but mainly also just like the final 4 episodes or so, whether it's the "it wasn't me, it was Ignacio" of it all, or Saul being the main catalyst for what motivated Walt to get all these connections, such as Gus, and how none of this really would have happened if Saul wasn't that main anchor point to connect all the dots and connect the different Venn diagrams of these characters in the past that they're going down. And I was almost wondering if rewatching Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad would be a little bit of like a tragic bummer, depending how the show ended. If it was like super depressing or if it was bittersweet. I think it was the perfect amount of bittersweet that I can now go back and rewatch Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad and not feel too depressed about where everything ends up, while also being able to appreciate things in a new way. And that's why I love these series, because, you know, everything on screen is there for a reason. And every time you rewatch the episodes, or whether individually after they air or the whole series as a whole, you always notice new things that you didn't before. So that's one reason why I love these shows, and there's so much rewatchability in it. And I'm really definitely looking forward to going back, because I haven't seen all of it. You know, I've seen chunks here and there, certain episodes. I haven't really seen Breaking Bad ever since after season 5 came out. So I'm really of Better Call Saul. So I'm really excited to go through and rewatch everything again now, knowing the full context of the entire universe, and also looking at all of these different side characters that have gotten so many of these minor cameos, and seeing where they came from and where they end up. And also even El Camino too. Like I'm kind of looking forward to going and watching El Camino again after the subtle Jesse nods that we got throughout the end of Better Call Saul. And I took a clip of like the Ed the Disappear from El Camino for one of my videos, and I just kind of got carried away and started watching El Camino and forgot how much I enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to rewatching just the entire universe. I wonder if maybe one day we'll get some sort of chronologically Breaking Bad, in the same way that some people did chronologically Lost. I think that'd be really interesting. I don't think we'll get
I think somebody will definitely do it.
Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting to see how that could go down as well.
Because Lost was a massive edit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, I mean, that's pretty manageable. You know what I mean? For somebody who has some time to kill, they can do that. Like the Lost one just blew my mind, because it's like, that's hours. I mean, so many episodes of so many seasons, and it's like cutting. You have to cut individual episodes, and I don't mean to get derailed here, but that is impressive. But as far as
back and sideways,
yeah, you know. And so I agree with what you guys are all saying there. The only thing I would add before we move on is that, as far as seeing it differently, it's funny how, like, at the end of 609, you know, I think it was Gil, Gil, me, you, and Jim that were talking about that episode, if I remember correctly, and we were just like, it's just so much more sad, you know, like it just seemed like Breaking Bad was going to be so much more, you know, of like just disappointing to see Saul Goodman in every one of his scenes. And I thought that was the really nice thing that these last few episodes did, was it kind of changed that, you know, because now when you see him toiling through that, you know, he's tortured, you know, he's you know, kind of trying to avoid the pain, and he's just being this character in order to do that. Now at least we know that, you know, that doesn't go on indefinitely, that he does you know, find his resolution in episode 613. Brian Saraway, thank you for the $4.99. How did you all interpret the moment Saul flipped back into Jimmy? Do you think confessing his sins in front of Kim was his only motivation? I mean, I think what one of the takeaways I had from the finale was that, you know, I guess I never really thought about it that hard, but you know, I wondered if Jimmy knew what he was doing, you know, if it was conscience. I mean, if he was like consciously like making a decision not to feel those things and be Saul Goodman, or if it was more of a defense, you know, just like a complete sort of, like automatic coping mechanism kind of thing. And so I guess from the finale, what I take away is that he did understand that. He understood what he was doing. He just couldn't stop doing it. So I think it's, part of his motivation is to show Kim that he can make the honorable choice too, sort of, I can do that because it's the right thing to do, even though I'm going to pay a huge price for it. I'm going to be in jail for much longer. But then also because he knew that it was, he wasn't going to be able to run from his past forever, and it was killing him, and it was causing problems like a cancer throughout the rest of, people that were associated with him. So I think that, he did that for a chance at relief, even if maybe he wasn't sure if he would get it or not.
Yeah, I mean, the way I interpreted it is he finally figured out what he really regretted. It wasn't money or the opportunity to further his career. It was regretting what happened with Kim. So I think she was the trigger that made him want to do it. And to your point, Pete, like, he was already living not a life too unlike a prison life, right? Like, he was going through the motions of Cinnabon and stuff like that, but so deeply repressed and not able to be himself and afraid and terrified. And he's a celebrity in jail. They love him, right? So his life, I don't think, is that terrible, all things considered. So it's not too unlike what he was already living, but now he gets to finally be himself. He can breathe. He's not looking over his shoulder anymore.
Yeah, and one thing I'd add is something that I didn't notice the first time I watched it, but then heard discussion about it. And I think when he was on the plane, right, and he told Bill, I've got some information, at that point, he'd made the decision to confess. And I think he wanted Kim to be an audience for it because he wanted to show her, that he can change. I think he would have confessed whether or not she was there. But the fact that she was there, there's a certain point in the scene when he looks at her and then he takes the confession a step further, because initially he admits to his role in everything Walt did. He recants what he initially said, and basically admits that he was pulling the strings. Walt would not have hurt or killed all these people if not for me. And then he looks at Kim and says, I have one more thing to say. And he talks about Howard and he talks about Chuck. Mm-hmm. And I forget who says it, maybe Bill, but those aren't even crimes. Why did you confess to that?
Yeah. That was a nice callback to the scene where he's getting reinstated, and at least I thought so. Like, where he originally, when he lied, and he finally told the truth, right?
Right.
Yeah, I definitely love that parallel a lot, where in season 4, it's just a huge ploy in order to get what he wants, but here he's actually being genuine and honest. And it's kind of interesting, too, because at first you're kind of led to believe that he's going to talk a bunch about Howard, and he does mention Howard, and he does show, sincerity that he feels bad about it, which is really one of the first times that we've ever seen that. But he kind of puts that to the wayside, and then he actually talks about Chuck. And I'm so glad that we actually got some sort of Chuck acknowledgement here in the finale, and that he actually got off of his chest what he did with the malpractice insurance, because that's just the one thing that I didn't know if he was going to take it to the grave or not, because he never told Kim, he never told anyone else. Kim acted out towards Howard in season 4 because she didn't know about it. Chuck and Howard both died never learning the truth. So at least now Kim knows the truth and he has that off his chest. It kind of probably seemed to everyone else like it came out of left field, but I really like how he got that off his chest. And it seems like the moment that he started talking about Howard and Chuck, he really was Jimmy McGill. It's like he bloated his ego, bragging about Walt and all of that, but that almost killed Saul, and now he's Jimmy. And I really love the transformation about, going from Gene to Saul to Jimmy all in one episode. I thought it was really quite brilliant.
Yeah. There's so much in there that it's just, I think that I think that we pretty much touched on all the biggest parts that that I wanted to look at. But I mean, I think it's one of those things where there's more, like the more I think about it, the more sort of comes out. You know what I mean? Like, I think that he will. It's a process, and those like you guys were all kind of saying, those were the initial steps, and it's exciting that he can actually go in a different direction, because it's been so frustrating to watch him continue to make the worst kind of decisions for quite some time now. Brian Saraway, thank you for the 199. We already touched on this. Do you think this is Kim's one and only prison visit? It's up in the air, but it could go either way. And I guess we all said that we liked that you could, you could kind of choose your own adventure there. Do you think it'll happen or not? Jim Capel, thank you for the 999. Pete, you didn't want to see the courtroom or Saul thriving in prison. We got both. I think it was masterfully done, but took your viewpoint prior to the airing. How do you feel about seeing it play out? Well, I mean, the courtroom thing was more of a confession, and I thought they set it up really well. So I didn't mind that at all. I didn't even really think of it, when I was watching. I didn't even really think about like, oh, they're doing this thing I didn't want them to do. It didn't even dawn on me. It just felt like, completely right. And what was really surprising, I think, was that he got caught in the first few minutes of Omaha. You know what I mean? Like they didn't drag that out at all. Like he was just instantly in custody. So I don't know how they could have done it in a different way from that. It was pretty much set up that way. As far as thriving in prison, like, that was the one thing that I didn't like about the episode. If I had to pick, like, I thought the thing in the bus was completely kind of a lot. You know what I mean? Like I felt a little uncomfortable when I was watching it. Like, what is happening here? Like, this doesn't feel right. And like kind of the only time that happened. But I mean, I guess it's fine, because I guess he kind of brings it up at one point about how, so many of the people that were involved got killed, and from Walt before. So I guess maybe that they had to sort of say, look, he's going to be okay. You guys don't have to worry about that. Even though, like, I think that was also kind of obvious because everyone's dead. So I don't know. What did you guys think?
The bus scene, what it reminded me of? Have you seen Dark Knight Rises? Do you remember the scene where they're chanting as he's climbing? I don't remember.
God.
But it's like Rise Up or something. I don't know. That's what it reminded me of. A little bit of that.
One thing I really liked about the finale is this little flavor it gave about what's in store for the characters. Seeing Kim go to do the volunteer work, and I personally felt like I needed the reassurance that Jimmy's life is not going to be an utter hell. I wasn't worried that he was going to be killed in prison or anything like that, but just to see that he is having as good a time as he can. I feel like he's getting like just the right amount of punishment. So I appreciated that. And the bus scene was pretty polarizing. I saw a lot of people, the word cringe was thrown around, oftentimes in all caps. I love the bus scene. I'll say every single time I've been on a bus that was going an extended distance, 9 times out of 10, we break into song, singing old theme songs, or just somebody starts and it breaks out. I don't know how often it happens on a prison bus, but I think they've set up the Saul Goodman character so well, and his commercials are basically a YouTube meme in this universe, I like to think.
Sure. Well, like the Chain Gang, like always singing songs, like there is that tradition of it that you see in old films and things.
True.
Like that. So I didn't have a problem with the bus scene. I think, again, they were just trying to let us know he's going to be okay. He's going to survive in there, and more than just survive, he's going to thrive in there. Like, I can imagine him giving legal advice, and things like that. So so they just
and I'd say he's going to thrive in there, and the fact that although he now thinks of himself as Jimmy and he's kind of tried to shed the persona, I don't think the world will necessarily let him forget. And it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. I don't think it's going to make his life miserable or anything, but people are going to continue to call him Saul. people are going to want to hear him say, "Better Call Saul." It's almost, I think Peter Gould used the analogy, it's like an actor who's so associated with a role that can't get away from it. And that was kind of, in terms of giving us a flavor for what's in store for the characters, that's kind of what the bus scene did for me.
Yeah, and it kind of also thinking about Jeff and how Jeff at first seems so menacing when he first meets him, and it turns out that he just like idolizes the guy. He's a celebrity, and that really comes through with Pat Healy's Jeff. You know, I think more so than the Don
Harvey.
Yeah, Don Harvey. But it seems sort of like, say it, come on, say it.
Yeah.
You know, so same thing. So, and I think that sort of it was a little bit for me, a little bit of a callback to that meeting with Jeff in the mall, where at first he's scared, and you see him again on the bus. There's a little bit of fear at first when the guy whips his head around and he's like, he doesn't want to make eye contact with anyone, and then he realizes that no, he's a celebrity, they love him. So.
Chase, what did you think? Like the bus scene or didn't like the bus scene?
Yeah, actually, I've really warmed up to it. I'm glad to hear Gil is a defender of it, because I don't know, I can't, you know, I was pretty indifferent to it the first time I saw it, but I've rewatched the episode a few times, and I really do enjoy it. Like I'll chant along to it. I'll hit my computer desk and while I'm watching the scene and chant along. It actually kind of gets me hyped now, and I like because it was either going to go really well for him in prison or just absolutely horribly. And I love how at first they make you think like, oh, you know, is everyone going to hate him? And then you realize, no, they all love him. So I love how it just goes from one end of the scale to the other and it bounces back. I love seeing Saul kind of smile as they drive along and the scene ends, knowing that he's going to be all right in prison. It's going to be easy for him to make friends. He's going to, you know, possibly pull a Shawshank Redemption, not in regards to escaping, but helping everyone with their legal stuff in prison. And yeah, so I really enjoy it. It's really grown on me a lot. Quite a fan for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's La Cucaracha. It was to me like it just always seemed like he would find a way. I mean, I get what you guys are saying. That's all cool. Good opinions, even though they're, wrong. But no, I'm just kidding. I think it's pretty subjective. It's for me. It was just I don't know. It just, like I said, I was like super super dialed into everything. Like I felt like I don't want to keep saying it over and over again, repeating myself, but I just felt like they were like kind of leading me through the story. And that felt like a weird departure, the first time. Maybe it'll seem different when I see it later, but I think it didn't take me out of it or ruin it in any way. And I think really to go back to the question that the viewer asked, it's a lot different than what I would have thought, though, because as you mentioned, by that point I guess what I didn't want to see was him go into prison and be Saul Goodman. I wanted Saul Goodman to die, and that part of him to be killed, and I wanted him to do that on purpose himself, make the decision. And so he did that, and now those people still remember him for who he is, and that's a lot different. You know what I mean? That's not him. That we saw him punch the door, and then we saw him go from Gene to Saul there. And then, he had himself the sweetheart deal. He had, everything was on. I didn't want to see him be that person in prison. And, we saw what happened on the bus, but then we also saw that he's pretty humble, it seems like, and they like him. They like to call him Saul because that's what they know, but he's not going around like, at least for a little bit we saw, and like, trying to run things, trying to play angles or anything like that.
Yeah. And in terms of things we've seen him done in the past, that we've seen him do in the past, that he's now doing in the prison, we don't see him going around giving people advice on how to legal loopholes or how to corrupt the legal system. We see him making bread, like using his Gene Takovic skills rather than his Saul Goodman skills. And I really enjoyed that.
I saw somebody say something like to the effect of, he's always been about that dough. You know what I mean? It was money, then it was cinnamon rolls, and now it's bread. And
I don't get it. So you have a problem with the bus scene, but it's all about that dough that you love. You know, I don't know.
that made me laugh in the comments when I saw that. I can't say. Yeah. So Roger Rubio, thank you for the 2. Quite a ride. Enough said. I'm about to sneeze. Sorry. Kenny Jaworski, thank you for the $4.99. The way Jimmy faded from her view as she looked back, it sure seems to me that Kim is moving on and won't be visiting him in prison. Yeah, I think it's it's up to interpretation. The door is there if she wants to open it. I guess we kind of already talked about this, so just for me, I like to think that it's there, and if she gets to the point where she's ready for that, then he's not going anywhere, so that'll be okay.
I actually find the fact that she looks backwards kind of hopeful, right? Like if she had been looking forward, I think that would have been a more overt way of saying she was moving forward and not looking back.
Yeah, it felt like they were saying. It felt like the way that they framed it and the way that they followed her, it was trying to invoke her doing the finger guns at the end of season 5. You know what I mean? Because that became such an iconic thing in between seasons. And she's looking and that she's thinking about him, and I think you kind of have that. Is she going to do the finger guns too? And I'm really glad that she didn't. That it was just it's just left as she looks until she can't see him anymore, and then that's where it comes to an end. Almeida's Army, thank you for the £4.49. In my super chat last time, I had 3 predictions: Skylar, Marie, and Chuck would show up. As the song says, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Thanks for everything. Yeah, I have to say, a lot of people thought Skylar was going to come back, and I saw Marie's name tossed about, but I never really considered her playing a part in this. If I'm being honest, it's sort of like Bill Oakley. Like the idea was out there that he's become a defense. He switched sides. He's not a prosecutor anymore. But it just seemed like it would be really hard to make that work. Him being so involved, and Marie. I mean, these guys have already said that. I didn't really chime in, and I just agree with what they were saying. It was a great addition. It really did. For a character that I didn't think about that much, I liked the performance. I liked the actor, but not essential when I think about all of the different characters in this universe. And man, she really brought something to the finale that I wasn't expecting. And Chuck, I kind of came around to the idea that he should show up because he's so important. And I couldn't have been. I think that was probably my favorite kind of payoff of things that I was expecting to see happen. And I'm really glad they did that. I think I heard in the Insider podcast, Peter Gould said that they weren't going to do that, that they actually added it after the fact whenever they, when they were looking at how it was going to be spaced out or something like that. And man, it would have been a totally different episode if he wouldn't have been involved.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me for a couple of reasons. I mean, first, I'm just so glad they decided to bring him in, because I was hoping, I wasn't sure if we were going to get it, but I was really hoping for a Chuck appearance, because I felt like, of course, he needs to be acknowledged in the finale, but I would love for them to find a way to show him one more time. But why it's so interesting to me that they added it late in the game, just logistically, is because it so well complemented the Mike and Walt scenes with the time travel motif and regret, but also the actual book. So now that book carries so much more meaning, and we saw it in the cold open, and we saw it in the carrot and stick episode on the nightstand. So I wonder if that was originally just intended to be a fun thing. Like, look, hey, here's this book, but this adds so much more meaning to it.
Yeah. I was actually so surprised that we actually saw Marie. I actually thought back to when we were talking during a previous live stream about whether we'd see Skylar or Marie. I definitely thought it was more likely to see Skylar, I guess she took that deal, so it makes sense why we don't see her, why we didn't really need to, or she didn't need to be involved in the court scene. But I was really surprised, like, seeing Marie. Out of all of the list of, the main cast of Breaking Bad characters, she was probably at the bottom of the list that I was expecting to see, especially in the Breaking Bad timeline. I believe we got a name drop of her in 503, A Better Call Saul, when Hank and Gomi were talking before they go and see Crazy Eight. But yeah, that was really surprising. And honestly, like, I love the actor that plays Marie, but I was never really a fan of her character in Breaking Bad. But I gotta admit, she just absolutely killed it in this final episode, and I was really happy to see her. I thought it fit really well. She did kind of paint, Hank in too much of a good light. I mean, don't talk ill of the dead, and he is her late husband. But Hank was a great guy, but he wasn't perfect, just like kind of everyone on this show. But obviously you're gonna remember the good things about him, and I really love how Gene mentions how that he met him multiple times, and that was like a huge theory for Breaking Bad, because when we see them talk about, or when we see Saul and Hank talk in Breaking Bad in season 2, episode 8, we always wondered if that was the first time that they ever met. And then we find out in Better Call Saul that it wasn't. And we do find the first time that they ever met. And how Hank, figures out his Saul Goodman pun name instantly. And then in regards to Chuck, I'm really happy that we saw Chuck in the finale. I've wanted to see him all season long, even all throughout season 5. We saw him twice in season 4, I believe. We didn't see him at all in season 5. And then just near, the back half of the final episode to season 6. So I'm really happy that we got to see him. Honestly, like, I was going into the finale feeling like I'd be a little bit disappointed if we didn't see him. I didn't really think it was going to happen, but it was one of those things that was kind of on my bingo card of, if this happens, it'll make my day. I kind of wish that the scene with Chuck was a bit longer, but I think that's the point, because that's the thing that if Jimmy could go back with a time machine, that he would change. He would have that heart to heart with Chuck. And so I love that, honestly. And I'd say there's so many little tidbits of that scene with Chuck, from the apples to the bag of ice to hiring someone else. So there's so many little Easter eggs that are throwbacks to the first season, and I love every second of it. I think Michael McKean just slid back into the role amazingly. I think it was interesting how he actually, like, really wanted to talk to Jimmy, and Jimmy just wanted nothing to do with it. So I don't know. I really love the Chuck appearance too.
Yeah, I thought they did that pretty smartly too, because they kind of played both sides of it. They made him warmer. They made it, they kind of, they kind of made him the one that was lonely, and that he wanted to, have him there, just two brothers talking and having a conversation. But there was also the underlying thing that he's like, maybe you could change your path. Like, they still had that going on, that he probably still wanted to talk him out of being a lawyer, because it literally drove him crazy. It made him feel insane to think of Jimmy out there with a law degree. But but it added some humanity, and it's kind of weird, because I think before that, I would expect that if he was reaching out to him in that way, that Jimmy would be receptive. But the way that scene plays out, he's busy. He's doing that on his way to doing something else, and he really looks at it like, why would we do that? Why would we sit here and have a conversation? It doesn't really work for him. Like, he doesn't really see the point of it. So I thought that was all pretty fascinating. And like you said, there are so many references in there. Like, the whole thing is like a callback to something else that happened in their relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like too how he's just clearly grasping at straws, trying to find excuses to have a conversation. It's like he doesn't actually, talking about Jimmy's clients isn't actually the reason. He's just looking for an excuse to start a conversation. And I like how Jimmy says, "Oh, are you just gonna, give me a hard time for the things that I do wrong?" And Chuck's like, "No, that's not what I wanted to do at all." But then just moments later, like a sentence or two later, he starts giving Jimmy a hard time about, "Oh, I hope that you didn't steal that ice from a motel like I know you always do." So he just can't help himself, and I find that really funny how Jimmy totally called that.
It's also it's so just tragic to think about the scale of his scams, that there was a point where the worst Chuck could say about him at the moment is he's stealing ice from motels, and just how it's spiraled since then.
Yeah, I love that he said that. I hope you didn't take that from a hotel. And it's like, of course he did. Of course he did. He explains that to Ernie later on in the series. Jim Capel, thank you for the $9.99. When Saul played the victim initially, I fully believed the performance and thought he was in fact fearful for his life. Anyone else get duped by Bob's incredible performance? Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that he did everything he did because he was afraid of Walter White, because they made that, they kind of had that scene with Mike earlier where they showed that Mike told him, leave that guy alone. He's nobody. He's going to, he's going to be gone. And Saul saw the opportunity, and he saw that as, something he could work with. But yeah, the performance was amazing. I mean, it was absolutely, and he's done that before. I mean, they were talking, you guys brought up Winter, episode 410 before, when he does that. He even tricks Kim with his crying, and yeah, that was a great, kind of, like, not only is Bob Odenkirk an incredible actor, but he plays this character, Jimmy McGill / Saul / Gene, who is also able to do some incredible acting in the process of, doing whatever he's doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was, we've seen him do this before where he's able to do people. But going back to the episode that you were just referencing, Pete, when they go back inside of the RV and he's looking around and he's just seeing dollar signs, he's seeing opportunity everywhere. He's excited as he's trying to figure out who they are and what the operation is and how much money can be made. So that was, of course, playing in my mind. But again, like as he even says, he just needs one juror, because it's not so much on it's not so much his or Oakley's. The onus isn't necessarily on them to prove his innocence as much as it is the state to prove his guilt. And as long as they're able to raise any doubt, and that was what that whole little performance was. Like, he's really good at raising doubts.
One thing I loved about his performance is that it was somewhat understated, especially considering how long we've been waiting for the real confession. You start to think he's going to sob and just totally break down. But I think the way he played it was so perfect. I mean, this is how Jimmy would do this. And I especially noticed it when he mentions Howard. And it almost seems like it's too painful to talk about. He only says as much as he can, what happened to Howard. And then he kind of trails off and you see his lip quiver. And just that moment really stuck out to me as just brilliant work from Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah. And it's funny because, he's been the anchor of this show, but the things that they have him do are all pretty subtle. You know what I mean? They're not like, generally, he'll have one or two big scenes throughout a season, and you're reminded of just how insanely good he is. But like, a lot of the times when you're talking about stuff, you're usually talking about the other characters and the way that those people stepped up in their roles. You know what I mean? So I did also like the fact that he had this little showcase at the end. I mean, obviously, the whole cast is stacked and there's not really any weak links in that at all. But I mean, it felt good to just sort of let him, kind of put all of his talents on display in the last thing, because, he is the leading guy here,
I mean, I definitely love how when he plays the sympathy card and the victim card during the plea meeting, that Marie and the federal prosecutor instantly know what he's doing, and that's why they call him out, like, "Oh, you really think that's going to work? You really think the jury's going to buy that?" And then the second that Saul kind of drops the act, the score in the background starts getting sinister, and his demeanor instantly changes from being sympathetic and a victim to being like, oh, I only need one juror to believe me. And then to parallel to season 4 again, back in season 4, he was going to read Chuck's letter, and then he saw it wasn't working. So then he switched it up and he was more genuine, and that ended up working. Where in this episode, if he would have just stuck to the script, that would have worked. And switching it up and subverting our expectations again is actually kind of what screwed him over. I mean, he did it on purpose. He threw himself under the bus on purpose to, get all that off of his chest. But I find it interesting how in season 4 he switched it up and it worked, and then here he switched it up and he really just blew his whole plea deal out of the water.
Christopher Walker, thank you for the $5. So which show is better, Breaking Bad or BCS? I think I'm going to go with Breaking Bad. What do you guys think? I mean, it's two different things. It's two different things. Like they're two different styles, but it's all one part of a bigger thing. It's hard, it would be hard to say. Like I certainly like a lot of things about Better Call Saul better, more, I guess. I like them more, than like, Breaking Bad. It was really high intensity, and it was really impressive in the way that it did those things. But that's not really my preference. I kind of I kind of feel more surprised, and in sort of like I don't know, like in an artistic way, maybe with Better Call Saul. Whereas like, with Breaking Bad, I was just like, just blown away and sort of like along for the ride. I think as far as the endings, I definitely like the Better Call Saul ending better, as far as like, as far as like how I think about it. Like I have some problems with the way that the Breaking Bad ended, but I mean, Breaking Bad was so entertaining when I watched it. It was like after the fact, or things started to like not really, add up in some areas. And like this one is sort of the opposite. Like this one is sort of like I felt satisfied, and it grows on me more and more. But, so it's really hard to make a 1-to-1 comparison.
Yeah.
Any of you guys want to jump in on that?
And it really depends on the rubric that you are using to assess them. I no offense, Christopher, this is nothing personal against you. I typically don't like questions like that, like what's your favorite book, or what's your favorite movie, or what's better, because they're all different, right? So in some ways, Breaking Bad is better. In some ways, Better Call Saul is better. I think, again, it depends on what you're talking about. Now, which do we like better is a different question, I think. And I don't know if that's asking, like, which did you like better? And again, that's a hard one for me to say, because I love both. But I will say this. I think what this one does really well is in-depth character development. And I felt more emotionally invested in these characters than I did in the Breaking Bad characters. So if you are into character-driven story, then Better Call Saul might be the better option for you. But if you're more into plot and action, then Breaking Bad, hands down, right?
Yeah, and I think like if you're really into that, then you should really consider just watching feature films. You know what I mean? Like I mean, and I don't mean to say that like, I'm just saying that one of the things that TV can do better than other mediums, like I said earlier, is that they can really develop characters. So when you have a show that's doing that, and that's really kind of, just getting lost in that, and really doing a fantastic job, like taking advantage of that thing that they have there to work with. It's something that I would love to see, that, more people be able to pull it off on this level,
Yeah, I think I second pretty much everything that both of you have said. And I will say that oftentimes when I ask myself that question, just for fun, what did I like better personally? A lot of times I want to say Better Call Saul. And of course, there's the bias of that's what I'm watching right now. That's what's top of mind. But if I try to kind of reverse engineer and see where is that feeling coming from, I think, Courtney, it's what you were saying, which is that I feel so fascinated by Jimmy McGill, Kim Wexler, Chuck McGill. I'm so intrigued by these characters and care about them so deeply in a way that I won't say I didn't with Breaking Bad. I certainly felt a degree of the same thing, but I don't think with Breaking Bad or with anything else I've ever felt it as much as I did with Better Call Saul. So I think that's where it comes from for me. Having said that, the plot, action stuff, I mean, there is something to be said for that. The pilot of Breaking Bad pulls you in so quickly and so strongly. And I remember the moment where where Victor says to Walt, you have to meet Gus here, bring this 1 hour, and he's scrambling, and then gets the call that their baby is being born. I remember saying after that episode, I have never felt that level of suspense in my life. And I don't know that a feature film can necessarily pull it off because of the character development. If you spend that many episodes connecting with Walt and these characters, and then you have that scene, it just ramps up the tension in a way that I hadn't felt before. So I think both of the shows have so much to offer. And even if you drill down to the subtext level, they're both saying different things about similar themes, so they complement each other really well. But having said that, Courtney, I'm similar to you where that what this made me feel for the characters and the discourse it allowed me to have about the characters, the way they intrigued me, I think that at times puts the show above Breaking Bad for me. And the last thing I'll say is I am planning to rewatch Breaking Bad, over the next few months, and it's been a long time for me. So that'll probably help me meditate on that question a little bit more.
Yeah, so I honestly feel a combination of both of what Courtney and Gil have said, because on one hand, there is the recency bias that is definitely a thing. When we watched episode 603 and then episode 607, we're saying things like, oh, it's, almost as good or even better than Ozymandias. And it's like, I'm not sure if that's true or not, if that's just the recency bias talking, but then it does have to do with, well, what do you like? Do you like down-to-earth, more grounded character studies, character development and focus shows? Or do you like something on more of a grandiose scale where in Breaking Bad, death is constantly around the corner. They're constantly trying to get out of a stressful situation. How are they going to get out of this one? Who's going to die next? What's going to happen? Death is constantly a threat on that show, where that's not really the case with Better Call Saul. And I really do think that Better Call Saul is more relatable because it's more grounded and it's more down to earth. And the way that you focus on the characters in Better Call Saul, so I mean, you still do in Breaking Bad, but the way you focus on it so much more, in my opinion, Better Call Saul makes it that much more relatable. Whether you're thinking of the sunk costs with Kim, or whether you're just watching a bunch of silent scenes of Mike, doing retired detective work. And the thing with Breaking Bad is, you have scenes like when Mike is just being a straight up badass, walking into that building, shooting people left and right, shooting that guy through the drywall based off of where Chow has his hands in the air. Moments like that is what Breaking Bad is to me. And I really love both shows for different reasons. I really wonder what I'm going to think. Like right now, I think I'd have to choose Better Call Saul, but maybe a year from now, maybe 5 years from now, once I rewatch both shows, I'm really curious what I'll say then once the Better Call Saul recency bias is aside. I guess only time can tell, but definitely think these shows will age well, and I'll have a lot of rewatchability for the future.
Yep. Agreed. Well, on that note, I have to step out, but it's been so much fun chatting with you guys on some of these episodes. Thank you so much for having me, Pete.
Yeah.
That's been great.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out. And, maybe I don't think that there will be any more Better Call Saul streams, but maybe things will line up again, and we'll be into something that's going on that we can get together and talk again on the air. I'm sure we'll talk normally, just whatever, like we have been. But it's been great having you on. Luckily for me, your fans came and introduced me to your content, and it all worked out. So hope that whatever you do with your channel, that turns out good, and that you'll be doing more content. And thanks again. See ya.
Thank you, and thank you all for watching. And nice to meet all of you, including you, Gil and Chase. And I'll be seeing you all on the interwebs, I'm sure.
Talk to you soon.
All righty. John Baptist, thank you for the 2. Internally, I was begging for the splash to color. Yeah, I was, but I'm glad that they didn't do it. It made sense. I think it was pretty perfect how it was just the cigarette. Giancarlo Visconti, thank you for the $20. That's generous. Let me start by saying thank you all for your amazing work. Have you considered doing Breaking Bad recap and review videos? It'd be awesome to keep this community and your high quality videos. Thanks again. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I like everyone has been saying, I'm sure that I might get around to doing a Breaking Bad rewatch. It's a little bit difficult to do like specific, specific videos on that. I think that I don't think they would do very good algorithmically. If there was a project, maybe a Patreon thing, or a couple people wanted to get together and do it, that might make sense. But just like logistically, I don't know if it would make sense to go back and do those videos, because they're not topical right now, if that makes sense. Any of you guys thinking about doing Breaking Bad recap?
We are I think so. I mentioned I'm going to be rewatching it. I think on our podcast, Saulcast, we'll probably chronicle that. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, and that's the nice thing with a podcast,
Yeah.
right? I can put in a couple of hours to talk about the experience of watching it. It's not a video that needs to be written and edited and everything. I think
Yeah.
probably we'll do roughly 1 episode per season, talk about the major events, talk about how it felt watching it after Better Call Saul. So it won't be a Pete Peppers video, Giancarlo, but as a silver lining, it might be at least a little bit of a substitute, to help you not have that. So
Yeah, I could see doing something like that. It would be a lot of fun, but yeah, like I said, it's not really. It's one of the things that is kind of a bummer about YouTube sometimes, is that you just can't. If you need to make a living, then you can't just always do the things that sound like the most interesting things to do at that moment, because the algorithm and what people are looking for really is what pays the bills, not just good ideas.
The algorithm starts to seep into your brain. So even if I'm talking to somebody that, you got to check this show out, I got to first do the math and say, well, if I watch that show, am I going to talk about it on the channel? Why am I going to watch it then? And that's the worst, is when it starts to affect that. So you got to be careful.
Jeremy, Chase, were you doing any Breaking Bad stuff?
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely be doing Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul stuff. And then
But I mean, he was asking like specifically if you were going to do episode recaps.
Yeah, probably. Honestly, I have in mind to do retrospectives for Breaking Bad episodes. I won't just be exclusively doing Breaking Bad. I'm going to be doing other shows too. But I definitely have a lot of content for Breaking Bad planned. And the thing about the algorithm is, I mean, Breaking Bad is kind of a timeless show, right? Like, even during the off season, in between season 5 and season 6 of Better Call Saul, I saw randomly recommended to me like a lot of Breaking Bad videos from creators I've never seen before, with hundreds of thousands of views. So Breaking Bad is definitely one of those shows that is timeless, and I feel like people will always watch a video on Breaking Bad, just because of how it's impacted pop culture. So I don't know, definitely gonna keep that in mind. I'll probably do a channel update here in the near future, next week or two, going into that more so, if people are curious. But yeah.
All right, Jeremy, thank you for the $1.99. What is Jimmy's biggest regret? The truth. I mean, as far as what the episode told me, it was what happened with Chuck, and how that sort of led to everything, and Kim being involved, and everything going downhill. I don't know if you can pinpoint something. I think it's sort of like the I think it's sort of like the question itself, you know, that's the flaw in that question of what would you do if you had a time machine, because you could always go back a little bit further or find something else that might be more effective to undo.
Well, I think that it's kind of a two-part answer, because with Mike's conversation, it's if you could go back and change something, what would it be? And with Walt, it's what you regret. So I think the thing that Jimmy would go back and change is messing with Chuck's insurance, and then the thing that he regrets is not staying and having that heart-to-heart with Chuck during that flashback. So that's just what I got based off of the episode.
You want to add anything, Gail? Or
no, I think, Pete, my answer is probably pretty close to yours, where I think if you were to ask Jimmy and he was in a genuine mood where he wanted to answer it, I'm not even sure he would know quite how to answer. He especially when he's been involved in scenarios that ended in people dying, his mind would probably go to some of those things first. The insurance with Chuck, everything that happened with Howard. And then if he tried to reverse engineer it and get back to where did all this start, maybe he would think about the first time he stole from his father in Wolves and Sheep. And then you get into nature versus nurture and say, well, didn't Jimmy have to go through all of these things to become who he is now? So it's a thought experiment. It's an interesting one. I know a lot of people like to interpret that maybe the moment he would choose is the one where he spoke to Chuck. And I like the way Peter Gould described that as kind of two ships passing in the night, where that was a rare moment where Chuck was maybe willing to open up a little bit, have a genuine conversation, but Jimmy wasn't. And maybe there would have been a time where Jimmy was open to that, but they missed each other. So,
yeah, that's the thing, right? Usually it's flip-flop. Usually it's always the other way around, right? So it's really interesting seeing the contrast. And just to add to my point I was saying about the insurance and then talking to Chuck, I think it's interesting how when Jimmy or Saul answers Walt and Mike, he kind of gives like phony answers, and then the episode kind of gives an honest answer in an indirect way. Like they don't just come out and say it, but I think they heavily imply it. So I think that was pretty cool.
Jim Capel, thank you for the $9.99. Last one, I swear. You can ask as many as you want. You don't have to feel bad about that. I totally got choked up and shed a tear when they fired up that final cigarette. TV hasn't made me cry for years. Well, okay, Nacho's final stand got me too. Anyone else? Waterworks. I mentioned this earlier. You know, for me, I was expecting it to come, but it never really did. I thought I thought all the moments hit, but I didn't get emotional. What were your guys' experience?
Well, I was watching with my brothers, so even if I were feeling like I was Waterworks, I wouldn't be allowed to display it in the room. But I definitely had the lump in your throat. Like there was definitely emotions there. It didn't get me to the point of sobbing in front of my TV, but I think I definitely felt what Peter Gould was hoping that we would feel watching the episode. It was pretty emotional.
I feel like I don't know. It's kind of weird because back in the day, I feel like I would is a little bit of a tangent here. I feel like on one hand, I would always get really scared of horror movies, but then I would never really get emotional to anything involving entertainment. And now I'm the complete opposite. Now, I love horror movies. It's probably my favorite genre, but nothing really scares me. And then on the other hand, I really do get choked up at a lot of scenes, and I don't think you should be ashamed to tear up or cry or feel emotions if you're watching certain entertainment. And that being said, I didn't shed a tear in this episode, but I was just on the edge of my seat the whole time. I thought the episode was really intense. The feeling of this is the last time we're ever going to see a new episode of Better Call Saul, a new scene with this character or that character. So I was really immersed in the episode, and just in regards to the scene with the cigarette, not just the parallel of them standing against the it's shot the same way with them standing, leaning against the wall, and then Jimmy taking the smoke. But even the score, like it's the exact same song that plays in the background as as the first episode. And then also even the little sound effect when Jimmy takes the cigarette, and the score almost kind of skips, or it sounds like it's being reversed to kind of signify that Jimmy is taking the cigarette and then putting it back. They did that same sound effect in this episode too. So that kind of got me right in the feels a little bit. I really love that. It was really immersive.
Yeah, I think that what I've noticed, because I mean, like you said, I get choked up or misty eyed or whatever all the time whenever I watch television. It seems like it happens more and more like the older I get somehow. But the thing about I think last week it really hit me that the scene on the bus. I mean, that was the biggest, most cathartic kind of like heaviest scene emotionally. And I was so wrapped up in what was going on and what was happening with the character, and I just didn't connect it with it in the same way that I do sometimes, like where you let your guard down and you're just feeling what's happening. And I thought that the finale, I kind of thought that happened again, where I was just like just sort of like so like wired into what they were doing, and so invested to find out how it was going to work out. And that like I wasn't relaxed enough to kind of just feel like what was going on. Like, but I mean, I agree too what you were saying, Gil. Like I definitely experienced emotion. It wasn't overwhelming in the way that it can be sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Three times that I was overwhelmed with this show, I was just thinking while you were talking. One has to be when Irene runs away crying from bingo. Like I rewatched that for my season 3 tier list recently, and I definitely teared up when I watched that. Like that's a hard scene for me to watch. Like, and I love it so much. It's one of my favorite moments of the show, but it is just so hard. And then the second one has to be end of episode 401 when Jimmy, that's your cross to bear, and then you see Howard's face. That's really hard to watch too. And then probably number 3 is Nacho's death. That really choked me up too.
Yeah, I think of this season, it was probably Nacho. Nacho was probably the biggest, the one that you were just like, whoa, The Judo Joker, thank you for the $5. Favorite shots from the finale. Mine was Jimmy disappearing from behind the wall from Kim's perspective, and the fade to credits. That was pretty good. I liked, even though it was just sort of a callback, I liked the exit sign a lot. Like hearing the electric hum whenever they showed that, and the way that invoked Chuck in his memory. Trying to think of some of the other like actual just setups, and I like the overhead shot of him when he was in the when he was still in the gene mode in the holding cell. I thought that was really cool. I don't know. What about you guys? What are some of your favorite shots?
Yeah, the holding cell. That's where the when he sees the writing on the wall, that gets him to
the
start
carving
laughing.
on the wall.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, there's the one that Judo Joker points out. Of course, there's them sharing a cigarette. So I think those are the big ones that everyone's talking about. But the holding cell was one that also really stuck out to me. It's such a jarring image after watching Jimmy avoid this fate for so long. And in some sense, we've been feeling him avoid that fate since season 1, because we met Gene so long ago. So it was just like, wow, he's actually, like, that's when it hit me. Like, he is actually here. He is in the legal system on the wrong side of the law. So that one really stuck out to me.
You want to add anything there, Chase?
Yeah, definitely love the cigarette scene. I really do love the finger guns too. I love how it's been a recurring trend for the past 3 season finales. Started in season 4 with a Jimmy or Saul, when he says Saul Goodman. Season 5 we get Kim, and then season 6 at the end we get Jimmy in prison. It's really interesting how the finger guns have also been the final scene between Jimmy and Kim for each season. So I really do like that parallel a lot.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection until right this. I mean, I looked at it, like I looked at both of those scenes when I was making my videos, and it was right there in front of me. But I didn't think about the fact that the last 3 ones all ended with finger guns.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of funny. The yeah, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I thought that maybe there was a I'm trying to think. Oh, you know what it was? It was the one in the Mike scene when he sticks his face in the water and he comes back up, and it's kind of that. It's kind of a mix of the visual and the dialogue, though, because Mike says, "Slow down, you know, you're going to make yourself sick," and that just was like, you know, we hadn't seen that actual episode for a long time. Like, you know, it's been a couple of years since that was on the air, and you know, it was such. I thought it was just so effective to put us back in that mindset, but also, you know, there was the added thing with that's who Jimmy is, you know, and of course he sticks his face in there and he, you know, drinks too much water too fast. That's how he goes through life in a way, you know.
I think it's funny how he instantly puts his piss-coated bottle into the water, like before Mike has even had any, just like completely contaminates the water with his piss for Mike. Like, I mean, I guess at that point, you know, maybe you're not going to care, like water's water. But I
Yeah.
don't know, I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, he had been drinking that urine for quite some time at that point. So I guess you could forgive him, but yeah, Mike probably didn't like it. That's for sure. Harvey Willing, thank you for the 50. That is absolutely generous. Pete, Gil, Courtney, thank you all for making this fantastic season of television an even more immersive experience. I believe this was before you showed up too, that he made this, Chase. I don't think he left you out on purpose there. The full weight of this finale is still slowly sinking in for me. Love the appearances of Mike, Chuck, and Walter. Saul over now. Yeah, and I think I touched on that earlier too, Harvey, that you know it's I haven't fully processed it. You know, I was working all day on the video yesterday and just had a brief nap, and now I'm here again. And that was the thing when I was getting prepared that I was thinking was that, you know, it wasn't it was challenging. It wasn't like confusing. It wasn't unclear or incoherent. I mean, it certainly made sense. Everything felt right character wise, but it just, there were some things that, you know, it didn't fit into the boxes of, like, you know, what the boxes you were expecting as far as like what you get when you watch a series finale. You know, like it did some things that were surprising in a way. And yeah, I think the you know, some of the decisions and some of the ways they got to where they were, it takes a little bit of time to sink in. And I find that to be, you know, a feature, not a bug. Like, I think that's fantastic. Brody, thank you for the 5. My 3 favorite creators. Thank you guys for elevating this amazing show to even greater heights with your great analysis. Quite a ride. Well, thank you very much, Brody. I appreciate it. This would probably not be half as good if you guys didn't show up all the time. You know, Gil and I started the first week, you know, it seemed promising, and I certainly had a good time talking about the show, but the fact that you guys show up every week and it continues to grow has been, you know, it's really made a big difference. And probably, you know, have people that would continue to come, because it takes up some time, and you know, it could be a real drag if there weren't a lot of people asking interesting questions. Thank you, Aaron Stevens, for that Australian $7.99. Hopefully a Kim movie is made similar to El Camino, set in 2022, showing how everything turned out since the end of BCS. I need this in my life. I don't think you could put it past them. I think it's possible. But honestly, I know that Vince Gilligan has a show out there that he's shopping around. They said it's if there aren't any really good descriptions of it because nobody's seen it, but it sounds like it might be more it might be more similar to X-Files than Breaking Bad. But I'd really like to see where he goes with that. And I would like to see what Peter Gould does next. And you think even if they did a movie, Vince left during season 3 of Better Call Saul, and he didn't get back until season 6. After when he went to do El Camino. So it's not something they can just bust out in a weekend. It's a big process getting it made, getting the people to work on it, getting cast and everything else. So obviously, like we said, I would absolutely want to see more Ray Seahorn as Kim, but I'm also really curious to see where they go next now that they have not just one show, not one classic show, but 2 that they've put out, and they wrapped up really satisfyingly, and that's going to open doors. Thank you for the $9.99, Mike Johnson, the runner. Ostro 1980, thank you for the 2. Jimmy turned out to be a pretty damn good lawyer. Yeah, or Saul, I think, would be the way to describe what was going on there. It wasn't all above board necessarily, but he was absolutely effective in his ability to get that deal. It was an incredible deal.
One thing I loved about the fact that he got it, and actually I think this is going to have to be the one I go out on.
Okay.
But one thing I loved is that I think coming into the finale, whenever people floated the idea of Jimmy getting caught, getting captured, it didn't quite sit right with me because I wanted to see him make the choice to turn himself in. That kind of, to me, seemed like the only path to redemption. But they found a way where he gets caught and then he gets himself a great deal. And then that gives him the opportunity to then throw that deal away and come clean. And so I thought that was pretty brilliant.
Yeah, and that sort of ties into what I was saying about it. The other viewer asked, like, if I didn't like because I didn't really want them to go into the court and I really want them to thrive in jail. That was the thing. Like, he got caught so fast, and I was like, damn, I wanted him to turn himself in.
Right.
But as soon as I felt that and started to process that, it was like they're like, we know that this is what people are going to think, so now we're going to hold on. He's going to get himself out of it after the fact, and then he'll turn himself in. You know what I mean?
I was definitely thinking of you minutes into the episode, because we had talked a few times about that. How you kept saying, if he's going to go into the legal system, I feel like we'll probably leave it off there, and it's a little bit up to the imagination. We'll have an idea of how it's going to go. But you and I, anytime we say something like that, we always give the caveat. But if they do it, I'm sure I trust these writers to do it in a way that will be satisfying. So I think that's the case here.
Yeah, and they have a track record of doing it, right? They do the inevitable, but they make it feel exciting or surprising. And one more time,
Yeah, that's right. All right.
So you're gonna hit the road.
Yeah. I think as much as it's a cliche to say it at this point, it's been quite a ride. And it's been a lot of fun, Pete. I really appreciate you organizing this and inviting me on. And thankfully, I think our tastes are pretty aligned. So I hope that we can do this again in the future with other shows and other content. So I look forward to that.
All right. Yeah, like I said, in the past, it wouldn't have been the same without you. So I appreciate you showing up every week and bringing a good conversation. Just like I said to Courtney, I'm sure we'll stay in touch and be talking about stuff, otherwise. But hopefully that, like you said, that our interests will align so that we can collaborate again, because how how it goes sometimes when you're in YouTube, that you're just working by yourself and doing the next thing you have to do.
Yep.
And it can make it a lot more enjoyable whenever you're talking to other people.
And
that are
sometimes
doing
they're
the same
doing that
thing.
on almost no sleep. So I hope you get some sleep after this,
Yeah.
Pete. And last thing I'll say, my little brother's probably going to give me a hard time if I don't do this. So I do want to plug, and to the person who said that they're dying for more Better Call Saul content, if you go over to our channel and check out our pre-show or our instant take that we did last night, we shot a 15-minute short film, our own spinoff about Lyle. And if you didn't get enough Peter Dyseth in last night's episode of Better Call Saul, we got him back, and we have a little appearance from Bill Oakley in our unofficial spinoff. So check it out.
Nice.
Yeah, I will personally check that out because I didn't see it at all because I was working all day. But yeah, that's great, man. Definitely check it out.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Chase. I'll talk to you both again soon.
All right, see ya. All right, Christopher Dalton. Thank you for the 5. I may become a flamboyant conman lawyer in order to cope with the grief of BCS ending. Top to bottom, beginning to end, best show ever. Yeah, I mean, I've said it so many times. It's really hard for me to say. I mean, it's my favorite show right now, that's for sure. And you could definitely make an argument for it being the best show. I totally get it, but I myself am always cautious when it comes to saying things like that because who knows what I'll feel like 6 months from now. But it's been fantastic. Much better than what I thought it might be when it first came out. That's for sure. Almeida's Army, thank you for the 179 pound. Marie got justice and closure she didn't get in Breaking Bad. Yeah, I mean, I guess she got the closure part off screen to some extent, right? Because Walt gave Skyler the lottery ticket, so they knew where Hank and Gomez were buried, so they found his body that way. Or did that happen on screen? That was just implied, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was just implied with the whole Skyler got the deal or whatever.
Yeah, because that's at the very end whenever he actually goes to see her for the most part.
Yeah.
Chronologically. So yeah, but yeah, it was nice like I said, and Courtney and Gil both said it as well, seeing her and having her have that moment there, it's a reminder, it was a very nice reminder, and it's really close in time too. Like it's not been that long, so Walt just died a couple of months ago, and he gave her the ticket when he went back to Albuquerque when that happened. You know what I mean? So this is all still new information to Marie Schrader. Like, it's not like she's been living with this for years. It's still pretty fresh in her mind. Mr. 19, thank you for the 9.99. When he was confessing everything he did, it was kind of like he was exorcising Saul from himself. Yeah, I mean, I described it as him killing Saul, but yeah, he was setting up a situation where he couldn't go back into that. He couldn't go back into that coping mechanism, and that was very, very good to see him finally be able to get to that place.
I just imagined like a Saul Goodman ghost floating out of Jimmy's body. Oh my god.
Yeah. Nobody, thank you for the 5. Could you please invite UD reviews to your live stream? She has really good insights. Yeah, she actually reached out, and I was hoping when there was a time when I was hoping that I was going to get the Saturday one going full time, and I was going to include some new people, and she was definitely on the list, but I got busy, and Saturday I only ended up doing one more Saturday stream, so it kind of got thrown out the window, unfortunately. I'm not too familiar with her channel. I looked at it when she sent it to me, and Courtney gave her a good she recommend good recommendation, I guess you could say, because they made a video together that I saw a bit of. So I would say check it out. And I don't know, they're saying please invite her to live stream. I don't know if there are any more live streams, but if there are, like she's definitely, I'll definitely be thinking about it in the future. Tin Omen, thank you for the 5. People who hated the finale don't understand brilliant writing. I mean, it's subjective. It worked really well for me. That's all that really matters to me. Like I don't have to be right about it. I think that a lot of the people that I talk to, that they agree with that. And I think, what I think someone on my timeline said, they weren't sure how to feel about it. And I think if you're in that place, sometimes that can feel like, I don't like that. I don't like this feeling of not knowing how I feel about it. And I think if you're there, I think what you should do is you should reconsider some of the choices that they made in the writing and and let that soak in a little bit, because I think it really is some great writing. But I can understand, I kind of prefaced the beginning whenever we talked about it. I could see how some people would be let down because it wasn't entertaining in the way that the show can be. I mean, I'm not even comparing it to something else. I'm just comparing it to itself. Like sometimes it hits a much higher, a much higher level of being just flat out entertaining and fun and exciting. That's not the kind of finale that we got. So I could see maybe if some people were let down by that, but I don't agree with it at all.
I do love how Better Call Saul stuck to its roots and didn't try to be something it's not, or tried to be, try to recreate Breaking Bad. Like, there's a lot of people that thought that Better Call Saul was going to go out, kind of like Breaking Bad did, but that's not really what Better Call Saul has ever been. The show can stand on its own two feet. Like it has legs, it has a backbone, and I love how everything came full circle. Of course, everything's subjective. You don't have to like it. You don't have to dislike it. I definitely really like the ending. I think it's one of my favorite endings of all time, probably. Recency bias, of course. But yeah.
What did you see in the comments of your videos? Were a lot of people mostly positive, or was it split? What did you think?
I think it was mostly positive. Yeah, I definitely did get a few cringe comments in regards to that bus scene. I did see that floating around a little bit, but I didn't really see too much hate. I feel like some people might just be blatantly trying to talk smack about it to like provoke a reaction or something. But as far as like genuine criticisms, at least so far, I'll have to go back and check again, but I haven't really seen too much.
Yeah, I didn't see like an uptick in it. Like I think that there's been a small on the small side percentage of people who haven't enjoyed the black and white portion of this season. The stuff after the cartel story wrapped up. But I didn't see more of it on this video, I don't think. I mean, I've been seeing people say for the last few weeks a certain kind of person that this has been terrible and that they ruined the show, which I think, even if you don't like it, I think that that's a bit dramatic to go that far with it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's still, even if it's not your cup of tea, it's still better than most of the other stuff that's on television. I feel like you'd have to say that objectively, compared to just based on the performances and the set design and the photography. It's just, that just seems like there's something a little off if that's where your take is going. But I didn't really see an uptick so far. I saw most people liked it. It seemed generally positive, and then there were some people who weren't feeling it. Roger Rubio, thank you for the $10. What do you think was the defining scene of the show? Which scene do you think best encapsulates Better Call Saul for you? Thank you for all your great content throughout this season and the years. Man, I don't know. That is that's a question that requires some reflection, I think. We just saw the last episode, I mean, if you had to go knee jerk, I think you could probably say the cigarette scene, or the 2 cigarette scenes, maybe.
I was gun to my head. I'd have to go with the sunk cost scene at the end of 303. I really like that.
Also a cigarette scene.
Yeah. That is true. Gotta love it. You know, Vince always thought that cigarettes made scenes look cool, and he definitely was not wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard him saying that about the Jesse scene, how they put the rain on, and he had to keep smoking cigarettes, so he was like having a headache or whatever. Aaron Paul really putting him through the ringer,
Yeah.
because he said just nothing looks cooler than smoking a cigarette, and it's kind of true. Like, you don't really think about it. Like, it almost seems obnoxious at times, but it gives them something. It gives the actor something to do that kind of energizes the what's going on in the frame, even though it's like this bad habit that's unhealthy. It kind of, as far as just like constructing a scene, there really is some utility there. Sorry, I mean, I would give you a better answer if I can think of something. I will, but I mean, it's like there's so much that comes to mind when you say that it's really hard to pin it down. Moises Balbuena, thank you for the $4.99. When Saul told his side of the story with the prosecutors, it gave me Walter's confession vibes from the DVD he gave Hank. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty 1-to-1, isn't it? I mean, Walter it was a kind of a different kind of manipulation going on, but they were both acting, right?
Well, I mean, Saul, even though Saul is like playing the victim card, he's he's mostly telling the truth with what happened. Well, I guess not technically, because he told the truth when when he went off the script and said that he had the incentive to work with Walt, but I guess he wasn't really too scared of Walt killing him. But I mean, everything with getting kidnapped and having a bag over his head was real. I feel like Walt was definitely they were both being manipulative for sure. I think that Walt even more so, especially considering he was trying to blackmail Hank and frame Hank for the mastermind. I think that was just completely evil. But I definitely see the parallel. Yeah.
Robert K., thank you for the $4.99. When the episode ended, shirts on hangers included BCDC shirt. Does this imply Jimmy eventually got transferred to Bernalillo County?
Yeah, I noticed that in the comments. I wonder.
I thought that I didn't get a chance to go back and check it, but I thought that this was what he's wearing, this BCDC. That's where he is whenever they work out the deal. So see, like right here, this is what I thought was the
Yeah.
BCDC phase, because what's her name's there, Marie's there, and that doesn't really make sense though. He's in Omaha. They don't move him until afterwards. So I'm wrong. I like I said, I never had a chance to go back and think it through. That he wouldn't be moved to county. That BC is a county, right? That's like county lockup before you get sentenced to the penitentiary. He's in federal prison. So I wouldn't think maybe it's just a kind of mistake,
I'm looking at the scene of when he walks down the hallway and he notices Marie right before he goes into the plea deal, and it does say DCDC, and then at the end, what was that image you just had up? It does say BC. So yeah, when he sees Marie, it is a D, and then the suit up conclusion is a B. So it is the first letter is different. I just fact check that.
It might be something that they made promotionally earlier on, and then something got switched, and it wasn't really necessarily. They could have probably done that a little bit tighter, but I think let's give them a little bit of leeway, because I don't think that, you know, if he's going to federal prison, that he would never be transferred into a county, you know, a county jail. They don't work together in that way, you know. Dracaris bitch, thank you for the $4.99. Does this change how you view Breaking Bad now? Seems like Jimmy is the main character of the Breaking Bad universe. Walt would have died in season 3. I'm happy for Kim. I'll default to what, you know, Gil has said. He mentioned this earlier, and I got the idea from him in our live stream a couple weeks ago, that it doesn't really I look at Walter White as a force of nature. I feel like he's going to, the way that he is, that if Jimmy didn't help him, he still had a chance to rise and still do all the harm he did. I mean, he was motivated. He had the skills that made that possible. Jimmy facilitated some of that, and he definitely found him whenever he was kind of floundering around. I mean, he was going and trying to, you know, do deals with Tuco and the you know, the what's it called, the junkyard, and you know, he did definitely move things along. And but really what's important is that Jimmy thinks that he was behind it. You know, that's something that Jimmy thinks that he's responsible for. So it doesn't really matter if it's true or not. And so yeah, he believes that, like what you're saying here, that he might have died in season 3. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but you know, as far as how it changes Breaking Bad, it changes it more to know, for me anyways, to know that he's doing that to deal with the loss. That all of what he's doing there is an attempt to not feel the pain from what happened with Kim and everything that happened before that. And also now knowing after the finale that he understands that that's what he's doing, and he's still doing it anyways. Sean Perkins, thank you for the $10. Plot-wise, it makes no difference, but the only thing I wish was the original Jeff got to finish his role versus what we got with the new Jeff, whose character seemed much easier to bully and manipulate. Yeah, I mean, I said this last week, and I'll repeat it again just because I you know, Tom Schnell said that they wrote the script for Don Harvey. That they didn't change it whenever they changed the actor.
Yeah. So Pat,
So
yeah, they didn't make Jeff like a kind of a buffoon for Pat Healy. Don Harvey would have had to play it the exact same way.
yeah. So that's what I was going to say is, so you know, you're thinking about it as in terms of the actor, but it's really a character thing that I think that even with Don Harvey playing him, he would have seemed a lot more incompetent when we got to know him better. It was just sort of the way that it was set up in the mall, that, you know, he seemed like he could have been a lot more threatening, or you know, diabolical than he really was. Big Ralph, thank you for the $20. The cost of redemption for Jimmy Kim was devastating, kept them separated forever. Walt's scene continued the theme Jimmy can't help himself. The Chuck scene gave promise to the fact that you can change your path if you want. That's interesting. The last one, the Chuck scene gave you promise to the fact you can change your path if you want. I mean, I don't, the promise part of that. I mean, what Jimmy tells him is, when did you ever change your mind or change your path or whatever? And the truth is that he never did. You know, he's kind of more open to Jimmy at that moment in that scene, but like later on in the series, that what comes after is that he did not change. He went down in you know, in flames, actual flames, after he just, you know, tore his house apart looking for electricity. Walt continued with the theme Jimmy can't help himself. Yeah, what I liked about what Walt said was that it wasn't true. He saw it the same way that that Chuck did, but then in the end we saw that it wasn't correct.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost of redemption for Jimmy Kim was devastating. Captain Sever, yeah, and I agree. We all mentioned this earlier. It's very true, but the cost of them not doing that was also pretty devastating. And Howard died, and more people might die as a result. So I think ultimately Kim made the right decision for the right reasons, and it's great to see that um, Jimmy did too. That Jimmy was able to come back out, and we could get rid of Saul once and for all. Randy Shepard, thank you for the 10. I didn't understand how Jimmy figured into the strength of Kim's affidavit. Is one witness account much better than two? I can't think of how Jimmy could have produced evidence. I don't know if they ever really made this clear, and off the top of my head, I don't know if I have a really solid answer for this. And the reason why is that I had some confusion about whether what Jimmy was doing would actually help Kim. And so that's the answer that I went looking for when I started looking through the interviews. And as far as what Peter Gould said, no, he's not doing it to help her get out of her situation with Cheryl. He's just doing it because he wants her to be there whenever he gives his confession. Like the whole thing, he said, I lied about her, and he'll go back on that, and they won't be able to use it anyways. But it was all just a ploy to get her to be in the courtroom when he came clean. And then in the process, he realizes that he hasn't gone far enough, that she's happy to hear him doing what he's doing, but it's not enough. And I think you guys have both, guys were mentioning how this is a mirror of the scene in 410, because he looked at them, and he looked at the people on the bar, and he realized this isn't enough, and he realized that he had to give that impassioned speech and start crying and talking about Chuck. Here he realized that it wasn't enough to get her on his side, and that's when he brought up Howard briefly, and then told the truth about Chuck.
Yeah, I think this question just also makes me think of 612 with regards to Kim telling Cheryl that there's no witnesses that are still alive other than my ex-husband, if he's still alive, which may imply that if Saul is still alive and he can be a witness and corroborate that what Kim is telling is the truth, then that would back up her confession. But the thing is that that the question's kind of wondering, I think, is that if Kim is a witness with no truth, or if Kim is a witness with no evidence, how does having Kim and Saul being two witnesses with no evidence really change anything? And I'm not really sure what the answer to that is, honestly. I think you'd have to ask a real lawyer to get an input, or do some due diligence and trying to look that up, because I'm not too sure entirely.
Yeah, the thing he said to Bill was that I know something that they don't know. So I just assumed he made something up. Like he said Kim, did something that she didn't do, that seemed like it was, maybe actionable, but they don't really tell us, like you said. Richard Seymour, thank you for the 5 years from now, a Prison Break movie. Yeah. I would watch it. I would definitely watch it. I don't know if we're going to get it, but I would definitely watch it. Dracaris bitch, thank you for the $4.99. Howard's widow can't sue Kim. Statute of limitations on wrongful death lawsuit is 3 years in New Mexico. Probably why she can't find a lawyer. I mean, I think that might be the case, but if it is, I mean, I believe you that you looked it up, and that might be the case. But I think that maybe that means that the show overlooked it, because I think that we're supposed to believe that Kim could be sued, and that she's shopping for a lawyer because she's going to do that. Was that your interpretation, Chase?
Yeah, definitely. And about the statute of limitations, I'm no lawyer. I've heard, through the grapevine here and there, that usually it's around 7 years for a crime or something like that. And currently it's from 04 to 010. It's only been 6 years. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's different limitations for different crimes, like that super chat saying. But yeah, that was definitely a thought that went through my mind during 612.
Yeah, I like I said, I think at the end of the day, we're supposed to believe that Kim would, Kim may be in jeopardy of, a civil suit, but she's not, but she feels like that's okay. Like it's, I mean, like she's willing to deal with that if it comes up, because she needed to unburden herself and tell the truth, because, that's what, otherwise she was hanging out and, in the relationship with the Yep guy, and not able to make a decision about whether she wants to eat mayonnaise or Miracle Whip.
Yeah.
Double Dash, thank you for the 2. Take on Gould's Lyle Fryer for hire announcement. As soon as I hear that officially, I'll give you my take on it. How about that? Christopher Nice, thank you for the 1999. When do you think Jimmy made the choice to tell the truth on the stand? Was it as soon as he heard what Kim did? Was it on the plane? Was it spur of the moment? He was going by Saul before he was on the stand. I think it was on the plane. Or
in between one or the other. It was after
yeah,
he learned about Kim, and then he finalized his decision when he talked to Oakley, because he purposely said all of that stuff in front of that agent that was sitting beside him, right?
yeah. I mean, I guess if you want me to tie myself down, I would say that he decided he was going to tell the truth when he heard Kim told the truth when they were meeting with the prosecutors. He decided that he wanted her to be there, and that he figured out a way to get her there after he heard about the civil suit on the airplane. So they were both kind of spur of the moment, independent, but he learned more information, and each time he learned a little bit more about what was going on, he changed his plan accordingly. Kevin Scott Bailey, thank you for the 10. I want to see a young Kim spinoff with Katie Beth Hall, who played young Kim in the series, showing how Kim Wexler becomes the person we see at the beginning of Better Call Saul. I get the I also thought this might be interesting, not necessarily to use that actor, although she is great. She did a great job of being Kim. But I always thought that maybe putting those things in there might be a fun place to go. But I don't know. At the end of the series, I kind of came down to, thinking that I don't really need to know that stuff. And now we're in a situation where they could go forward with her story, although I don't really need to see that either. But yeah, I mean, I get why that sounds good, but honestly, my take on it was that before I really wanted to see something like that, and as we got closer and learned more about her in the final season, it seemed a little less interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them potentially doing like a webisode or something like that with young Kim. I guess they don't really do webisodes anymore like they did with Breaking Bad, aside from that one Kettleman deleted scene for season 3, or bonus scene, rather, where we saw the Kettlemans visiting Craig, on picking up trash on the side of the road. So I think it'd be cool to see them do like some sort of short webisode thing, like Tales of Better Call Saul or whatever. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would, I would not. There's no way that I wouldn't watch something that they made that included the character of Kim or Ray Seahorn, or some kind of a animated version of it. But
Oh
I'm
god.
not gonna hold my breath to think about whether that's gonna happen or not. Rennie 180 HD, thank you for the $2. What do you think of Marie's dumpster reference to Saul?
Well, like calling him a trash person.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what she said specifically. I thought she just said something along the lines of it's fitting that you ended up in a dumpster, but I could be wrong. What do you
Yeah,
think?
just kind of it's fitting that you were found in a dumpster because you are garbage type of implication.
It's possible, huh? Oh my, sorry, I'm a little bit distracted here because somehow my chat scrolled all the way to the end.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible development here because now I have to go backwards and figure out where I was. If you have anything else to add about the dumpster, feel free to do that right now.
I was just randomly thinking about I wonder if Jeff permanently being left in the jail cell is the new did Huel ever leave the safe house? I wonder if that's gonna ever be a thing. I
Uh,
I assume that Marion is gonna have to, maybe she'll let him soak it in there for a little bit. But I feel like she'll have to, it's horrible too because of how stressed out she sounded trying to help Jeffy out with his troubles in Albuquerque, that she'll have to go through all of that again, since Jean clearly isn't going to help, and she didn't want his help anymore. It's really a horrible situation that he put her in and that he left them in. But my own headcanon is that Marion eventually tried to or somehow worked the system a little bit to get Jeffy out, but that it was probably quite the headache, just like the Albuquerque situation.
yeah, man, this is a mess here. I apologize to you guys. Thanks for asking so many questions, but it feels nearly impossible to scroll back to where we were now that I got bumped. I'm just going to click on the next one I see, and we'll discuss that while I'm looking because I don't know how much further I have to go. Mike Pelosi, you won the lottery. Thank you for the 5. Well, thanks everyone for giving us a little more Saul and consoling us just one last time. I've always looked forward to this chat. Much love. Thanks. Right back at you. Kind of fitting that I got a comment instead of a question when I was trying to solve a problem, but I do appreciate the $5. Christian Chacon, thank you for the $4.99. Sending an immense thank you to everyone that helped make Better Call Saul on and off the screen. Again, awesome. I thank you for the $4.99. And also thank everyone that is involved with the show. But this is also another statement instead of a question. Gabriel Samuels, thank you for the 5. Why do you think there weren't more nippy scenes? I don't really understand this one other than
There never was a Nippy, was there?
yeah. Nippy doesn't exist. I hate to burst your bubble, but that was all a ploy to trick nice old Marion into letting him into her home and into her heart. Oh, how could it be possible that I'm still scrolling back more?
One thing that I do think is interesting is the mint chocolate chip that Saul tries to sweeten the deal with. Mint chocolate chip is clearly his favorite flavor of ice cream, because not only is that the ice cream cone that he was about to have before Nacho kidnapped him in 502, and then he comes, the ants devour it in 503. But
Yeah.
in the season 5 finale, and I didn't even notice this until, I don't know, probably like 6 months after season 5 aired, but I was like doing a video or something, and I heard Jimmy yell out from off screen because Kim was getting him a bowl. He was like, mint chocolate chip. And I'm like, oh, so seeing the ants devour that ice cream cone didn't ruin that flavor for you then. And then even now, that's still the flavor that he asked for. I mean, that was just kind of a ruse. I think that the whole point of it in 613 is that he didn't really want, the mint chocolate chip, because he was just I think he was just saying that in order to get what he wanted with Howard and Kim and that whole story. But I still think that's interesting how they brought that up again.
Yeah. Kenny Jaworski, thank you for the $4.99. Chanting on the bus is very similar to chanting from Jim Jarmusch's Down by Law, which is also in black and white. Maybe influenced it. Possible, but I mean, that's one of my favorite movies from growing up, and I think it plays a lot different. I think it's it feels spontaneous, and everyone's involved in a way that's different here. Here, everyone is you know, kind of putting Saul into a place where he doesn't want to go himself. So like, I don't know. Are you familiar with Down by Law, Chase? Have you seen it?
I don't recall. No, I do. The bus theme does seem like something that like prisoners would do. Or it seems like something that I've like seen many times in like movies that involves like prison, where they'll kind of chant something or just kind of have this group mentality of like I don't know. It all also kind of reminds me of like like a baseball chant, but I'm pretty sure I've seen certain like prison movies where they've sort of done that thing before.
Yeah, I'm sorry to laugh. I'm laughing not at you, but I'm laughing at the scrolling. It's ridiculous. I'm going to be here for quite some time answering these questions, which I'm very happy to do. I'm glad that you guys did this. I don't know what happened here that I got kicked all the way to the end. And all the time I've been doing that, it's never happened, but it's bizarre to go back and look at all the ones that I have to go back the other direction and answer. Let's see. I think I'm almost there now. I almost have to be based on the time. Let's see. I need to get one more because I need to step out for 1 second. Sergio Hernandez, thank you for the $9.99. Why was Walt's head so big? I thought he had lung cancer, not a brain tumor. Maybe this is what Gould meant by you will see Breaking Bad differently. I didn't notice it again. I thought they probably did better this time because I noticed it at least when people complained about it last time. The bald cap discourse.
I heard from social media that Bryan Cranston actually potentially shaved his head for this scene in 613. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
I would believe that.
Yeah, it kind of seemed believable. It seemed like they might have learned their lesson from El Camino.
I just didn't think it was that bad. I don't know. It seemed like one of those things that someone noticed it, and it's possible that it bothers, like there's just a thing that it bothers people, like, you have some weird thing, but like overall, I didn't think it took away from it for me.
Yeah.
Do you guys think Kim would visit Jimmy ever again? I think it's definitely possible. We kind of answered this one earlier, but we're not supposed to know at the end. It's up in the air.
I think she
just
will,
in case. I think it's safe to.
So it's like when you're trying to talk to someone on the phone and you keep speaking at the same time. Oh my goodness! I was just gonna say I think that she will, but she won't do it without a reason. Like the next time she comes back, she's gonna have something to tell him, or she's gonna have something up her sleeve.
Yeah, it's not just for fun, and the relationship isn't just back to normal or whatever. John Lothkowski, thank you for the 860. How about a spinoff show called Super Lab? BCS made us realize how much time passed from when construction of the lab restarted to Walt's first cook. That wouldn't be like where my mind would go. It would be more of a broad thing about earlier in Gus's life, maybe. What do you think? With the Super Lab, that time period, does that feel like there's enough fresh stuff to look at there that you could get into it, Chase?
Yeah. So let's see here. How about a spin-off show called Super Lab? Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, I feel like I definitely feel like the way that they ended it off in 609 was kind of a good way to end it off. You know, like the way that Mike and Gus stare at each other one final time, and Gus is kind of like, get to work. You know, we need to start working on the super lab right away. I do like, it's crazy how different, you know, the super lab is from I think it's the season 4 finale when Gus brings Gale down there to look at it, compared to the Breaking Bad flashback when Gale is helping set up all of the equipment in there. I think it would be interesting in order to see something with regards to, you know, the new crew that they hire, what happens to them. But I mean, like, it's all kind of self-explanatory. I feel like it's not necessary, and it's kind of that issue with what a lot of people had with El Camino. Like, El Camino was amazing, I loved it, but a lot of people feel like it wasn't totally necessary. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff in Better Call Saul that they left out in the final season because it wasn't really necessary to show, and that they think the viewer, because I don't know, they give the viewers a lot of credit for, you know, being smart and being able to figure things out. With you know, how did Jimmy get the blow up doll from the Kettlemans, or how did he buy Caldera's you know, contact book, things like that. They didn't, you know, explain on screen, but we're left to kind of infer how it happened. So it's just, there's a lot of things that they could show, or that they could come back to, or that they could have shown. But at the same time, I think that it's pretty self-explanatory for viewers to kind of like fill in the gaps for certain aspects like that.
Yeah, I just picked up on the end of what you're saying there, and it sounds like I would agree. You know, there's things, there's tons of story in there if they really wanted to mine it. But we can put it together ourselves. So is that where their efforts are best spent? You know what I mean? Because these are creative people that have done great things, and you know, even outside of this, maybe they could really surprise us outside of this universe when they didn't have the same constraints. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Well, you know, you said that you needed to get going. You want to step out here, or you want to stick around? What's your plan?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna step out now. I decided to stay a bit longer after Gil, since I showed up late. I need to go have a nap. Honestly, I have some work I need to do tonight, and I only had like an hour or two of sleep last night, and then like another hour or so of sleep before the stream. That's why I hopped on late. I was like still crawling out of bed, and didn't get my usual live stream Red Bull. So I need to go have a nap. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm glad I could join you for this final Better Call Saul stream. I'm sure, you know, just like Courtney and Gil, if our taste lines up in the future, I don't know if you're ever going to be doing any sort of Severance live stream. I know that they release that show weekly, but it's like kind of like a streaming service thing, right? It's not necessarily so. Sometimes I don't know. So stuff like that. There's definitely a few shows in the future that we could possibly talk about.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's come around to Severance since it's been out, so it might be a lot bigger next year.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to. I'll probably be covering that as well. Might do something for season 1 leading up to that. You know, kind of like a refresher. Definitely something on my radar that I'm looking forward to. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk behind the scenes with in regards with
absolutely
stuff like that. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming out. It's been fun. Just, you know, echo everything that you just said, and I'll talk to you soon. And don't worry, everyone that has questions in here that I just saw, don't worry, I will be here until I get through them all. So we'll get through this together. All right, Chase, I'll see you.
See ya.
All right. Heen, thank you for the $4.99. Love Courtney, Pete, Kiwi, and Gil. Gonna miss you. Pilot of Breaking Bad. Walt says chemistry is transformation. BCS fulfilled this idea. That's life. Yeah. I like that. I can't think of the actual wording of it right this second, but I know what you're referring to, and it's fantastic. And obviously, I've said it before. I'll say it again, probably several other times through this. I'm gonna miss you guys too. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for the $4.99. Serpentine, thank you for the 2. Jimmy seems happier in prison than at Cinnabon. I mean, I guess it's relative. He's not on the run in this weird situation where he doesn't know, he doesn't know what to do as a fugitive. He's unburdened himself. He's come clean. He's looked at his thing. So yeah, but I mean, being in prison is still prison. So I don't know how you could really say for sure which was better. They both have some big cons. Although I prefer him, being honest and moving forward instead of just running. Kenny Jaworski, thank you for the $4.99. What was the meaning of "you don't understand? It's really good ice cream"? It was just BS. He just said that as BS because he didn't have a good explanation for why he would do that. He couldn't explain to Bill in that conversation that really he just wanted Kim to come there to his hearing so that she could see him come clean. So when he was faced with not being able to have an answer, he just said that he liked the ice cream, that the ice cream was really good. Wall of text objection. Thank you for the 5. Thoughts on the legacy of the show in the various games or genres it played with: law, noir, westerns. I think I mean that's a big question. I mean, I as far as law, it's not a typical law show. I mean, I watched a lot of when I was younger. I watched a lot of Law and Order, and there was obviously a million different offshoots from that. It wasn't really. I liked that they could incorporate the law into the bigger narrative without making it that kind of show. And I guess when I'm looking at this law noir and westerns, I think it's more of a show of this time where there's a really conscious idea of blending genres and not going with one. I mean, that's what I would say. Maybe if I think about it a little bit more, I can add to that. Francisco Chung, thank you for the 5,900. Was the transition from Saul to Jimmy too abrupt? Jimmy had this enormous greed all his life, but gives it all up within a second half of the finale. I don't know if that's really the case. I mean, I think it manifested that way, that he had this greed. But to me, I think that he, underneath that, he always had this thing of where he wanted to be loved. He wanted people to like him. He happened to be very good at being manipulative and, running scams and things like that. And so he went back to that, but I wouldn't say that it really came down to greed, at his core. I think it came out that way because of the way that, that manifested. But yeah, I don't think it was too abrupt. I think it's an ongoing process, but I think that, he can make the decision that fast. Asmund Kim, thank you for the 199. Did the finale change your opinion on Chuck? Not totally. I mean, it didn't recontextualize their relationship or what I think about him. I think what it did more than that was, though, it just sort of showed that he did, the idea I always had was that Jimmy was looking for love in a place he couldn't achieve it. He couldn't get it from Chuck because Chuck wasn't capable of it. And, Jimmy kind of said it himself in the court hearing. He said he was limited. And so what that last part reminded me of was that in a limited way, in the way that he was able to being the person that he was, he did care about his brother, or if not loved him. It just wasn't what Jimmy or maybe anybody would want, but there was something there. That's what I got out of that last scene. Ralph Baba Ganoush, thank you for the 5. I think Walt and Chuck have a lot of similarities, and it subconsciously led Jimmy into working for Walt because he never got to work with Chuck. I don't know. I mean, they may have some similarities, but I mean, I think as far as what they showed us as why he was interested in working with Walt is, one, he really underestimated him, as pretty much everybody did, including Mike and Gus later on. And I think he thought that he would be able to, make him do what he wanted to do and make a lot of money. Whereas Chuck, he always knew that Chuck was formidable. He always a little bit afraid of Chuck, and I don't think he had that in the beginning with Walt, even though they kidnapped him and everything else. I think he thought that he saw an angle there that he could play, and it all backfired on him spectacularly. Lucas Solare, thank you for the 199. The final episode lacked Nippy and Pina Colada song. It didn't really have a song. It didn't have that baby blue kind of thing. But I liked the choice. I liked that it was kind of sparse with the score at the end. It felt fitting from my point of view. AJ in Nashville, thank you for the 10. Long-time viewer, first-time commenter. I need to express my gratitude to you all for the added context. Took my love of BCS to a new level. Thank you, especially to Pete. You got a great gift of analysis, sir. Well, thank you very much, AJ in Nashville. I'm glad that you decided to make your first comment today, because it really made my day, and this is the last time we're going to do this for a while. Hopefully there'll be more. I mean, I'll definitely be making more videos about different shows. I'm going to be switching over to House of the Dragon. Hopefully that'll be good. But also, if something comes along and it's doing pretty well, then we'll be doing live streams again, and I'll be trying to bring on other people to have a conversation. So thanks for the 10. Kevin Scott Bailey, thank you for the 5. Taught college courses in a prison. The bus chant seemed realistic to what my students would have done for a celeb lawyer. Cool. That's a different perspective. Thank you for that. Serpentine, thank you for the 2. Spilling diamonds in a dumpster. Good metaphor. Yeah, I love that too. I wanted to incorporate that in my videos somewhere, and I just never had a chance to hit it. But yeah, I really like that too. Oscar Rendon, thank you for the MX 220. Hi all. The only thing I dislike about this finale was Jimmy getting 86 years. He could redeem himself, confess his crimes, and get the initial 30 years deal. Why would you waste that? He didn't save Kim for civil lawsuit. Yeah, I think that was the point. He wanted to show that he could do the right thing just as she did. And he wanted to see her. He wanted her to see him in that light, and that was really all there was to it. It's not necessarily rational. It's kind of funny whenever they're in there, and she said, "You had him down to 7 years," and then she just says 86 years. Because that's a big difference. But you also saw on their body language and the way that they were talking, that it meant something to them. And I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it was enough. That was enough for him. Eric Bray, thank you for the 500 yen. Do you think Jimmy may have opted for the 86 years because he knows he's incorrigible and would just continue with his scams if allowed to be free? I don't think so. Maybe on a subconscious level, maybe, kind of like, there was a question of whether he was trying to get caught before. I don't think he was actually trying to get caught, but he sure wasn't not, he wasn't doing much to make sure he didn't get caught. So you could say maybe he was subconsciously trying to do that. But I mean, I could be wrong. You know, that could be there. It's not something I picked up. I'll think about it whenever I look at it again. Crazy Kid 2710, thank you for the 5. Australian bus scene was amazing. Felt like a shout out to the folks at OK Buddy Chicanery and how silly and funny it was. Bravo, Vince. Yeah, I could see people liking it. I just didn't. It was the one part where I was sort of like, didn't and like I said, it didn't take me out of it. It just sort of was like something I had to sit through until the much better part came after it. Mark Hogan, thank you for the CHF5. This ending and the final season as a whole felt far more heartbreaking to me than anything in Breaking Bad. Am I alone in this? The love story makes it brutal. I don't think you're alone in that. But I think I don't know. Like I said, I haven't rewatched Breaking Bad for a long time, but I remember being, especially with Jesse's story, being pretty beat up with that one too. And when it happened, and I say not that long ago. I mean, I watched it 2 years ago before season 5 came out. I rewatched the whole series. The original time I watched it, when it first came out, was a lot longer before that. But yeah, I always thought Jesse's story was pretty heartbreaking, but do agree that BCS kind of leans into that a little bit more. Piano Orlando, thank you for the 5. I thought Jimmy made it clear he had no water in his Bagman trek, but last night's flashback changed that. He was just trying to be sensational. No, I think it just happened after they already called. Because if you look at 509, whenever he gets bars on his phone, he still has the Davis and Maine urine, filled with urine around his neck. So I think based on the fact that he dumps that out in this scene, that just means that they already called. Victor is on his way to pick them up, but they have to still make it to the road. So they know they're going to be rescued. Their trek is basically over, but I don't think it throws off the situation. He made it all the way through without water, and then they found some. And then they went to the truck stop and they got their beverages and new clothes and all that stuff. Arthur Mueller, thank you for the $5. A Better Call Saul has taught you one important life lesson. What would it be? Man, that's a big one. Oh man, I don't know. That's hard to be on the spot with that. I wish you had given me what yours was, and then I could maybe riff off that a little bit. I mean, it would have to be something about character. I mean, about like mask. Wearing the mask and someone becoming the mask. But I don't have anything clever thought out, and I don't want to leave a blank air for so long while I try to think about it. But I'll bring it back up if I think of something. I ask you, hi. Thank you for the 5. Disappointing ending. Season 6 should have ended after Fun and Games, and Gene's story should have been 6 episodes long to avoid rush job. Also with the original Jeff. So you got 2 points here. You think that season 6 should have ended after Fun and Games. Fun and Games, but okay, so Fun and Games is 609. And Gene's story, which is 4 episodes, it should have an additional 2 to avoid rush job. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I didn't really think that it seemed rushed, and if I recall correctly, it seemed like the big criticism was that 4 or 610 was too long. That they spent too long doing that. So I don't know where you padded out. I think it felt like it was structured and paced pretty well from my point of view. But I hear what you're saying. It might have been nice to break the season there and have another one, but in a way, I'm glad they didn't do that because it had been like so many years in between these last couple of seasons that it may have started to feel like it was never going to end. I'm glad that they were as much as I hate to see it happen. I'm glad that they were able to bring it to conclusion now and sort of go out on top. Naba down south, thank you for the 10. Time machine here. All good. He gets sentence commuted in 2024, and you never know. Peter and Vince will keep this train rolling. What character in this universe could continue canonically? Well, it could be anyone. It could be Walt. It could be Marie, or not Walt. Sorry, Skylar. Anyone in Walt's family that's still alive. Skylar, Walt Jr., Marie, all of the side characters from the courthouse, Oakley, Erickson, Huel is still out there. He went back to Louisiana, though. I mean, there's a ton of side characters. There's not really that many, Kim is out there in the world. Lyle's out there somewhere. I can't, part of what this is impressive about this finale that I didn't get to mention until right in this moment, and I'm glad you kind of brought me around to it, was they actually, I mean, think about it. Everyone's dead. And then you have the conclusion with Jim and Kimmy, or Jimmy and Kim. It's pretty impressive how thoroughly they kind of tied everything up. There's a lot of things that they could pull on, like threads here and there, but as far as the major story, they really did wrap things up. Tris D, thank you for the $10. Did Jimmy buy a time machine after Chuck died because Chuck had it? Nothing was salvageable from the fire. Nice way for them to tell us he never stopped thinking of Chuck, even though they made us think he did. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the book it did sort of just magically appear in his mansion. He could have just went and bought the same copy, or it could have been given to him off screen. But yeah, I mean, that was one of my favorite revelations from the finale, was that he did think about him. He had to work at not thinking about him. All that stuff he was doing, there was effort involved with that. It wasn't natural. Dove's House, thank you for the 5. Only quibble: Saul not knowing about Kim's prior deposition. Kind of ridiculous. How would he know about it, though? He was hiding out as Gene. They talked on the phone, and then she just went and did it, like, right afterwards. And they didn't have any contact. So I don't know how he would know about that, unless Bill told him when he got there. But I guess maybe that's what you're saying, is that Bill didn't do a good job. He should have told him, because otherwise I don't know how he would know. Dracaris Bitch, thank you for the $4.99. Trivia: Timothy McVeigh, Oklahoma City bomber, was housed at ADX Florence, which ADX Montrose or Monrose is a stand-in for. His last meal was 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. Huh. I didn't know that. I mean, I know who Timothy McVeigh was. I know he was executed. Didn't know any of the other stuff about that. So very interesting. And really not a bad choice if it's a final meal to end on ice cream. Can't say I agree with anything that Timothy McVeigh ever did, but I kind of like his choice for his final meal. MJ323, thank you for the 4. Great show. Even better to have found you 4. Yeah, I appreciate it. And even though I'm the only one here now, I'm glad I found the other 3 too, because it's been fun to be able to talk about this with different people and have you all come and ask us questions. He Who Hughes, thank you for the 5. I believe this was the first time Saul and Marie met. How do you believe he knew that she was Agent Schrader's wife when he saw her? I'm not really sure. This isn't something that I investigated. The wheels are turning, but I'm not coming up with anything. He did see her in passing and knew her right away. I don't know off the top of my head how that might happen. I mean, he could definitely know that from being involved with Walt as much as he was, but I can't think of a specific instance that would make sense. Bill, thank you for the $4.99. What do you think about the cigarette they shared at the end and the flame being in color? I loved it. I thought it was on Twitter right after it happened. I wrote that I liked that the only color was that spark, and it was the thing that they share. It doesn't make sense for it to go back to color as much as that might have been fun, because their world isn't the same. It's not like everything is fixed, but there is a little bit of light. There's that little spark there, and it comes from what they share together, from their connection, that relationship, that love that they've had, and I think that's awesome. Ate My Wheaties, thank you for $9.99. The way the shot of Kim and Jimmy smoking mirrored their first scene together hit me in the feels. The last symmetrical shot of them each in a cage, but Kim gets to walk out of hers, was terrific too. Yeah, I mean, these aren't questions, they are statements, and they're two statements that I agree with completely. I don't really have much to add to that. I just thanks for bringing it up, because you're absolutely correct. Andrew Squire, thank you for the $4.99. Thank you, Pete and Chase, for the best BCS videos these past years. Did any of you all feel emotional the very last scene with Jimmy and Kim? Well, we talked about this earlier. I definitely felt something, but didn't get emotional, which I thought then was weird after the fact. And we had the whole, out of everyone that was here, we had the whole the whole spectrum, from where I was at to ugly crying. At least that's what we heard behind. I can't remember if we heard that on the stream, but behind closed doors before we started, there was some talk about that. So, Doggald, thank you for the 15 Australian. Have you guys looked into ADX Florence, the prison ADX Montrose was based on? The misrepresentation makes the ending feel contrived, especially in a show about law. Jimmy's prison life would be miserable. Yeah, that's why I don't know if that's why they changed the name or not. I looked it up. I looked in Montrose, nothing came up. And then in the regular Google results, you get Florence, which are two different words, but the ADX is the same. So I guess that's why that's the most popular thing that comes up. I don't know if that's intentional, that they wanted us to think that because he did what he did, he not only did he not get 7 years, he got 86 years in a really tough prison, because then it didn't really look like that necessarily. So I don't know. I mean, it's not gonna ruin things for me, but I guess I see where you're coming from too, Doug Ald. So thanks for that. James Miola, thank you for the 10. Breaking Bad or BCS is going to be a Godfather 1-2 argument for the foreseeable future. Godfather 1, Breaking Bad has the best lines and iconic performance. Godfather 2, BCS takes same characters and tells more interesting story. Yeah, I wouldn't dispute what you're saying there. I have heard a lot of Godfather 2 references over the last couple days, I think, more than what I've heard before. This seems to be a popular idea. And I wouldn't disagree with what you're saying there about the movies either. So thanks for that. Gabriel Samuels, thank you for 5. Why do you think there weren't more nippy scenes? I already answered that one. Sorry about that. Tyler Hunter, thank you for the 5. One of you say a nippy joke and I'll donate another $5. This is This is something that you said an hour and 30 minutes ago, and I appreciate it, but I don't have a good nippy joke, and I'm not sure you waited around that long, unfortunately. Tom Pava, thank you for 10. I think Jimmy's confession was driven not only for Kim's sake, I think she also inspired him to come clean for his own growth, health. Not only for Kim's sake, I think she also inspired him to come clean. Yeah, I agree. It's not really for his sake. It's more about him wanting her to see him do that. You know, it's respect in a way, but like it doesn't really help her. And he was definitely inspired by her doing the same thing. Oops, I already did this one, I think. But thanks again, Mike Pelosi. There we go. Barefoot Kings, thank you for the $4.99. Did you notice the level of sexual tension between Marie and Bill Oakley? I felt it was so fierce and tangible that they could make a whole new series. I assume you're joking here because I didn't see it at all. But and if that's the case, it's kind of a funny joke, and it would kind of be a funny joke series. But I'm not sure we should hold our breath about that. E. Mark, thank you for the 2. Even Marie thought Saul in a dumpster was fitting. Yeah. And you can see where she would come from that. I mean, she doesn't really know him, but she definitely knows of him. Walter Edmondson, you're bringing up UD reviews again. And yeah, I responded to that. As far as my thoughts on her video on Kim's pistol hands at the end, I haven't seen it. I don't really watch a lot of videos in general, especially not BCS, because I don't want to get influenced by other people are saying most of the time. So even like the people who I bring on, I very rarely watch their videos, and I think they kind of rarely watch mine too, honestly. We talk a lot. The people who come on, we talk a lot about things, you know, and messages and things like that. But so I kind of know where they're coming from. But I haven't seen this one. Maybe I'll check it out. Thanks for the heads up. Hans Charler, thank you for the $2. Watched all of you for the entire series. Thanks. You're welcome. You guys make this a lot more fun to do. And comments like that really help out because, you know, get a lot of ones that are I get a lot of negative ones too. And, you know, sometimes those outweigh the feeling that you get from the ones that are bad outweigh the, you know, the ones you get from the good. Doggald, thank you for the Australian 5. I just wanted to say thanks to you guys. So easy to get bogged down in the negative since I didn't like the ending. Watching season 6 would not have been the same. Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad you took time to say that. Francisco Chung, thank you for 2,500. What was the meaning of cigarette light in color? Touched on this a couple times. That's what I think it is. I think it's the, you know, the small amount of color that's in their lives that comes from that thing that they share. Dual Deer, thank you for the 2. Watching Kim cry and break down got me choked up. And this week or last week? I don't think she did she actually full on cry in this week? I can't remember. Formula 444888. Thank you for the 499. Any chance there will be another spinoff? I don't want the Breaking Bad universe to be over. There is a chance, but I really do think that you'll see them go in different directions first, honestly. Doesn't mean, I mean, they have a whole staff of writers and other people. I'm not sure what the IP, how that works, you know, for this particular deal. I mean, look at some of the other franchises that are out there. I mean, personally, I'd like to see Gilligan by himself, or at least, if not Gilligan and Gould, at least be weighing in on anything that was coming out, if not being like, I mean, not just an executive producer credit, but like, some hand in crafting the thing. But they could go a different way. I mean, there's a lot of other writers that are there that I'm sure would jump at the chance to show run their own show. Really cool. Thank you for the 5. Maybe do a Breaking Bad group effort recap discussion, like monthly, doing one season at a time. Fans, us, could rewatch along. One Breaking Bad season binge fest per month. Yeah, I'll think about it. I would like to. I'm thinking about doing some podcasting in the future, anyways. And a lot of these things sound like. I mean, I have a huge list of things I would do if it wasn't like I needed to do a video that was going to pay my salary and allow me to take care of my family. So yeah, that's a good idea. It might come out more in the podcasting thing down the road, but I'll consider it. Stones 007, thank you for $5. People complain BCS is slow compared to Breaking Bad. When watching Breaking Bad lately, I realized first couple of seasons were fairly slow. Too unfair people to give up, in my opinion. Yeah, it's I agree that that it's not as different as but I mean, I think the thing with Better Call Saul was it was able to do a lot of things that regular shows aren't able to do because Breaking Bad was so popular and they were coming off of that. And so I think that there's some truth to the fact that it was indulgent in the first couple of seasons, but it all paid off later. So, if people aren't patient, then they probably won't get there. It just probably isn't for them, and that's okay. Serial, thank you for 5. Jimmy's worst crime and the one that makes him the biggest villain in all of BCS is him tanking Bill Oakley's biggest case. This is a joke, I suppose. It is a bit sad for Bill, but hey, great character, and happy for Peter Dyseth that he was able to get a chance to shine in a really big episode of a really big TV show. Because if you follow him on social media, you can see that he's earnestly a fan, as well as really dedicated to doing a good job when he gets a chance. Formula 4444-8888 $4.99. Why do you live in Vietnam? It's kind of a personal question. I mean, I won't get into the specifics of why here. I just sort of went, maybe, I guess 6 years ago, I left the U.S. because I was doing some stuff online, and I thought I would like to, I wasn't really that happy, so I figured I might as well travel a bit. It's sort of like thinking I would be nomadic, and I did that for quite a while, and then I eventually ended up settling down. But I don't really want to get into any more than that on my live stream. CS, thank you for the $5. Surprised how saddened I was with the 86-year sentence. What do you hope for Jimmy's future? Would you want to see him ever secure early release? I mean, I guess theoretically, it's one of those things where I went in wanting to see him do what he did. So it felt very satisfying to me, and I didn't put much thought into what might happen next. Maybe as time goes on, I will, but I was just happy with where they took us. Almeida's Army, thank you for the 179. Thank you, Pete, Gil, Adam, Chase, Courtney, and Scott. And yeah, thank you for being here. I've noticed this name several times over the last weeks, and I appreciate all the questions and the shout out for the mods. Scott is one of our moderators, and those guys have really helped out in the last couple of weeks, and I appreciate that too. And I would post the link, but I saw that Scott already did, so definitely check out his channel. David Miller, thank you for the 5. Do you think Kim would make regular visits to Jimmy even with her life in Florida? Yeah, we kind of touched on this. It's not clear. She might or she might not, but either way, I don't think we're supposed to know at the end. I think it's pretty intentionally vague. And Charler, thank you for the 2. How will you rewatch BCS, Breaking Bad, and EC in order? I think I would do just what I already did, publication order, as they came out. Watch Breaking Bad, then watch El Camino. Well, I guess that's a little tricky there. I feel like El Camino seems natural, and then go back to Breaking Bad and start the circle again. That's the way I would do it. Jacques Doucet, thank you for the 10. Had wondered if this would be like End of Ozark. Main character gets away with everything. Everyone else suffers. But the BCS writers are pretty consistent. People typically get what they deserve. Yeah, I think that they might have even kind of corrected a little bit between Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I think Saul got more, or Jimmy got more, a lot closer to what he actually deserved than Walt did, because Walt was always going to die. He was always going to die, even if he didn't cause all the wreckage and pain and everything else that he did. So him dying at the end wasn't really justice. That was inevitable. So the fact that he got away with everything, the more I think about that, and the more the further I get away from the I shouldn't say go. The further I got away from the actual event and the exhilaration of watching that finale, the more it seemed like, hey, you know what? He got off pretty easy. He was going to die anyway, so he basically got everything he wanted on his terms, and I'm not sure that I mean, I'm not sure. Everyone always says, "Oh, there's no happy endings in the Breaking Bad universe." His ending is pretty happy, and as is Jesse's. And I guess on some level you could say that Jimmy's is, because he breaks free from this cycle, but he actually feels like he has to pay a price going forward. Not, like in Jesse's case, you could say, oh, well, he already paid his price before he was emancipated, but it's all, they're all different situations. Danny, thank you for the 5. Think there's any significance to Jimmy and Kim sharing a cigarette in jail cell like they've done so many times before? I think it's their introduction. It's that thing that they do that is, it's super, it's like it's incredibly intimate. It was sort of a signifier to us that there might be more to their relationship in the first episode, but Kim wasn't developed, so they didn't even really know what it was. And I think that because they used it that way, it works really well here to show that, like, this is our thing that we do. At HHM, when they worked at the mailroom, and after, whenever she became a lawyer, that was their place where they went, and it was just them together. And there's something nice about that, and the fact that they don't really talk about anything. They just sort of kind of, it's like that, one of those companionable silences, where they're just comfortable being around each other and sharing that thing. Christopher Dalton, thank you for the $10. Which series is better, Breaking Bad or BCS? I say BCS. I think the writers perfected their craft doing Breaking Bad, and BCS was the result of that. What do you think? Well, we answered this earlier, so hopefully you got to see that. I think it's an ongoing thing. I think, what Courtney said about better, and which one do you like better is something interesting to think about when you think about this. But these are questions you can't really answer. You can just have an opinion about them. ZDRO, thank you for the 199. Love the cut to the watch and the waltz scene. Yeah, that was something I kind of had to look up because I was like, what is that? And I didn't really make it out that well in the moment, but when I went and looked at it, that was the watch that Jesse gave him for his birthday, the one in between the beginning and the end of the series. So age 51, I guess. And it's funny because it's something, it's unnecessary. They didn't really have to show that. And not really sure if it's supposed to say that maybe he felt a little something about Jesse, or if it's just, he needed a moment there. I mean, I guess he definitely did think about Jesse. Let's put that, but we don't know what he thought about it because that's the way that he is. You can't really imagine him feeling bad about it, considering that he had the opportunity to take responsibility for his regret about gray matter, and in that moment, in that short bit of time, he totally twisted around to make it all Gretchen and Elliot's fault instead of his own. Gabriel Ross, thank you for $10. Did Jimmy's testimony protect Kim from civil suit? No. And I say that because Peter Gould said that. He didn't say for sure, but he said that it didn't solve her problem, and that wasn't really the intention. Cheryl could be talked out of it. Maybe she may not go forward, but what Jimmy did not affect that. The standard for criminal prosecution is higher than civil suit. Yeah, and it would be hard. It would be hard for them to come up with something that would actually make sense that he could do there, because she went with a sworn affidavit, and she confessed to her face to face. You know what I mean? It's not really a criminal matter there. It's just she knows what she did. But would one defendant be able to shield another? I don't think so personally, but I'm not anyone that's familiar with the law in any significant way. Thank you, Pete, Kiwi, Courtney, and Gil. Thank you, Gabriel. I appreciate the $10. Gerard Kelly, thank you for the €10. What were your favorite montages in BCS? Mine was Jimmy's cell phone hustle with Street Life playing, followed by Gene feeding Frank Cinnabon with the song Jim on the Move. I think it's a little bit hard, but I think that the Cinnabon one is probably up there. Like, the other ones are classics, that I've been thinking about for a long time. But Michelle McLaren really did a great job of putting that together. I always liked the one at the end of season 1 with Marco. It's really got a different feel to it. It has like a I don't know how to describe it, but I really like the way that they put that one together. I really like the score and the inflatable. It's not the best overall montage, I wouldn't say, but I really like the way that one opens up with the inflatable doll flapping around in the screen, and the way that they edit that together. I also I just looked at one of these lists of the best ones, and I was kind of in disagreement, but I can't think of what I would put above those from on top of my head. There's so many of them, and they're all pretty good if you catch it at the right time. But I do agree with what you're saying there. I think that one in Nippy is pretty up there on any list after the end of the season. Christopher Walker, thank you for $5. Most contrived and kind of stupid storyline of either show. I would vote for the plane crash in Breaking Bad. Kind of ridiculous, I thought. I don't know. I mean, it may be a little bit all the things that had to happen there, but I just thought that was super intense. And I remember watching that the first time, and it really was kind of affecting. I mean, I don't know how it holds up, or if you're watching it for the first time now or something like that, but originally, I thought that was pretty solid. Most contrived and kind of stupid storyline of either show. I mean, I don't know. I don't really. There's stuff that I like better than others, but I don't really. I don't really have one that jumps out at me. If it comes up, if I think of something, I'll let you know. I mean, I didn't really like the first time through. I didn't really like the Ted stuff too much. I mean, I understood why they were doing it, but I thought some of that was just kind of hard to watch at times. Nick Lemke, thank you for the $9.99. Saul gone made me realize the gravity of Saul's actions in Breaking Bad. My headcanon had blamed Walt for most of what happened, but Marie hit home that this is the evolution of Saul's schemes and consequences. Yes, to the first part. My headcanon had blamed Walt for most of what happened, but Marie hit home that this is the evolution of Saul's schemes and consequences. I don't think it's that cut and dry. I wanted to reread that to make sure that I wasn't misinterpreting it. I think Saul thinks that. I think Walt would, if Walt was still around, he would argue that that was ridiculous, and we're all dumb for thinking it. But yeah, I mean, these people they're all really big. They're all really big personalities, and they're very good at whatever they do. And those two coming together, you know, it definitely made for some exciting watching. Hans Schurler, thank you for the $2. I was hoping to see Marion get reward money. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was a mini arc, but I think that she had a pretty good arc. Same with Jeff. I didn't really need to see the aftermath of that, but I think they're all right. I think they'll be doing okay. I think Marion is, she got some vengeance for the fact that he tricked her. Hans Charler, thank you for the 2 again. Do we know when the Chuck scene takes place? It happens. It's got to be in the timeline of season 1. A lot of people jumped on the idea because he mentions the Financial Times that the next time he comes over, he has the Financial Times, so it could be like right before the first episode. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. It does have to be before season 1, and I don't know how long he did that for, but I think it's probably pretty close. Sorry for the scroll time here. All right. Seth, thank you for the $5. Did Jimmy show up to his trial sporting the blue ribbon for the plane crash? Do you think it means he finally isn't wearing it for a scummy reason? I didn't read too much into it. I just thought about that as him going back to being Saul, and he wore that for a long time, like in the that was a big part of his his suit for a while. So I didn't think it didn't strike me as weird that he would bring it back out. So I did not think that it meant he finally wasn't wearing it for a scummy reason. I just thought he was accessorizing. There could be more to it, but I hadn't considered it at this point. I mean, it's been I think that's something I remember from watching it. I'm trying to pin the timeline down in my head. I know that Wayfarer was in season 2. I can't remember how long he kept up with that, but it felt like the first time I was watching it that he kept up with it much longer than made sense. It seemed like there was a feeling of why is he still doing that? But I can't say for sure. I mean, the whole thing of Breaking Bad happened in 16 months. And that's kind of wild when you think about it. So it can't have been that long in his past. They shouldn't have stated his sentence outright. I guess there might be something in us guessing, but I think they wanted to show, they wanted to make it explicit what he gave up. He had the sweet deal. He would have been out, and now he won't. Now, effectively, he'll be in there forever. So what he did, what he achieved, it came at a great cost. JB315, thank you for the $20. Beautiful thing about both Breaking Bad and BCS is the examination of the relationship that comes so close to working but can't. Jimmy and Kim, Walt and Jesse, Jimmy and Chuck, Jesse and Andrea, even Jimmy and Mike, etc. Great endings. Thanks, Pete and Chase. Yeah, I agree with that, with everything you said there. There's in all of those, there's two big personalities that bring something to the table, but they're not actually good for each other when it comes down to it. Cormac DM, thank you for the $4.99. Just a perfect finale. Saul had complete agency in the end. He wasn't forced to confess. He chose to be McGill. Chose to save Kim and save his soul. Yeah, I agree with all of that except for the saving Kim part. I don't think that really figured into what happened. May have come off that way, but I don't believe that's how it was. I think he did it to show Kim that he could be a better person, and he had to do that in the context of not being able to get anything in return for that. Ron on the check. Thank you for the $1.99. Why did Saul wear the Howard Hamlin tie bar? Troll or homage? I think it was homage. If you think about how he, there's a little bit about how they set up that his mansion in season 1 or episode 1 that kind of makes you wonder. He had he had a lot of stuff to remind him of scams he did in the past. But I think with the Howard thing, I think that's just Jimmy wanting to look rich and extravagant. I don't think given how Howard's story came to an end, I can't really see him doing it for any other reason. Dirt Pants, thank you for the $1.99. We never found out about Kim's middle name, did we? Yeah, she just didn't have one. A lot of people don't, and Kim Wexler didn't either. It was not a big detail that was there for us to stumble upon. That's all there is to it, I guess. Sachin HJ, thank you for the 100. Are they trying to tell us there is no going back to a life of color as a consequence of his actions and aiding Walter White and all his actions? I think it's saying that, if we wanted to get really specific, I think it's saying that one act doesn't change everything, It's a process. Maybe there will be color in his future if he can find that in the Supermax. That's up to fate and some level, but we'll see. I think that what they're saying, I think they had a choice. They could have had it come back and they chose to keep it black and white. So I think what they're saying is not yet. It hasn't gotten there yet. Ron Odencheck, thank you for the $1.99. Yin's guys are awesome. Yin's guys are awesome in that. Go Stillers. Yeah. I am a Steelers fan. That is where I come from. So I appreciate that, Ron. scroll. Here we go. Eric Rosas, thank you for the MX50. Just saw the finale. Had to wait a day since I am from Mexico. Ugly cried during the Chuck scene. Thanks for everything, Pete. Yeah, the Chuck scene, man, it was good. At first, I was they tricked me whenever Michael McKean said that he thought that he shouldn't come back because a ghost is, if you come back too much, then it takes away from it. And then in the last couple of weeks, I was like, man, they really have to have Chuck in this. I hope they have Chuck in this. So I was super satisfied that they were able to pull that off. Just fantastic. And I'm a Chuck hater. I mean, I don't know. I'm definitely was never on his side, but I liked seeing a little nice side of him at the end there. Whoa, what is this? Thank you for the 5. When the prisoner said, "See, I told you it's Better Call Saul," I broke down in tears in front of my 2 children. It changed my life. It's very personal and sounds like a wonderful experience. Hoggy King, thank you for the 199. What do you think happened to Walter Jr.? I don't know. I mean, I guess he probably got the money. That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted us to believe at the end. Whenever they had him go over there and see them, Elliot and Gretchen. I don't think that they had an easy life. I mean, when your father is a notorious meth kingpin, people look at you funny. And maybe the wrong kinds of people might look up to you because they think they can get something from you. It's not a good situation. Creates Clouds, thank you for the 199. Don't remember any other show ending with the cast. Don't remember any other show ending with the cast. With the cast. I don't really understand. I don't know how to respond. I apologize. Lord Fryer, thank you for the 5. I think Kim should have come out of her shell more after Jimmy gets 87 years. In a flash forward, it make his sacrifice a little more impactful. I think we saw, though, that she's on that progression, right? It's not happening overnight. It's not too fast, but I believe she'll get there. That's enough for me. David L., thank you for the 999. Imagine the thoughts racing through Jimmy's head when he got to hold Kim's hand after more than half a decade of his life crashing. Thanks for all the content. Cheers. Yeah, it was the 2 actors did such a wonderful job with that too. The way that they were both kind of reserved. Of course you want to see them kiss each other or, Jimmy sweep her up and then just have that triumphant moment where it's all together, but that's not real. That's not what's really going on. That's what we want to see is going on. And I thought that they really navigated that in the performances in a way that really made it feel authentic. Let's see. Thank you for that. Let's see. Sorinibus Silpi Tota. Thank you for the 499. Do you think Chuck is happy now since Jimmy finally embraced who he is? I hate to break this to you, but Chuck is dead. He's been dead since the end of season 3. No, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of an end around on what he wanted to see. He wanted Jimmy to not pretend. So I guess maybe there's something to it. But more than anything, he wanted Jimmy not to be a lawyer like he was. That was what really broke Chuck at the end of the day. Everything else was just was just a justification. Billick E, thank you for 499. Did Jimmy will the good of the other? Will the good of the other? I don't know. Will the good of the? I don't know. I mean, I think he was inspired by what Kim did. I don't know if that lines up with the framing you have there or not. Mateo, thank you for the HRK 25. Am I the only one who wanted Saul to take the deal, blame everything on Kim, and end a show as a winner? You might be. I mean, probably not realistically, but I mean, if you really think it through, I don't think there's much satisfaction in that. So I don't think many people, I think people might have that idea. And then if they think it through a little bit more, they might realize that it's not as satisfying as it might sound. Gabriel Ross, thank you for the 5. Did Kim get sufficient comeuppance compared to Jimmy, given that she drove the scheme against Howard? Yeah, I think they both got she may be paying Cheryl for the rest of her life, everything that she ever earns. If not, she definitely had a psychic toll, and she walked away from the one thing she loved, which was the law. So yeah, I think that they did. I think that may be a little bit different, but we'll see. Arthur Miller, thank you for the R10. Back to the life lesson question from before. To me, it is maybe about noticing your own patterns of behavior and avoid falling into them. Listening to the advice of those who you care about. Yeah, those are all good things. The life lesson question, yeah. I think I agree with what you're saying here, but I think that's what's really difficult. Is I know for me, I see things in other people, and then I say, "Oh, I do that," and then I can kind of see it. I maybe don't see it in myself. I see it in someone else, and then I can apply that. So yeah, I think in general, seeing your own patterns is difficult, but it is a good idea to try to see if you can do that. There's definitely a connection to what he does and addiction, and for him, the idea that Kim had was that they needed to be abstinent, they had to be away from each other in order for that to work. So maybe in a roundabout way, him being locked up kind of achieves that goal. Dracaris bitch, thank you for the 4.99. What would you change about season 6 and the finale? I'd have a full episode of him being Breaking Bad Saul. Much love to the creators and fans. We are a huge family. Yeah, I think if they stretched it out, yeah, I think that wouldn't be a bad place to go. As it was, I think it was structured pretty well, and I'm okay with it. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else I would change. There's not much. I think they did. I mean, I think that they did a pretty good job of laying it out over 13 episodes. Second Moretto, thank you for the 199. What is your overall rating of the episode? For the finale, I would say letter-wise, it's probably an A. It's not necessarily an A plus. Episode 7 and 9 would be A pluses, and I think this would be a little bit lower than that. I thought it was really good, but it wasn't the same. It didn't hit the highs that some of the other episodes did. It did what it had to do, and sometimes that means that it can't be the highest. That happens a lot of times. If you think about shows, the episode before the finale is sometimes the one that really has the big payoff. Abril Alexandra, thank you for the 99. Do you think Jimmy Kim will continue the relationship beyond the finale? I felt like that final scene cigarette was Kim's way of saying goodbye. Also, thank you so much for the streams. Yeah, I think it can go either way. I think that's somewhat intentional. When we talked about it earlier, I had the idea more. I didn't really think about what comes next. I just thought more about the fact that they got to a place where they could be in that same room again. Because remember, she left him, and she left him for a good reason, and she stuck by her guns. And I really just liked that. I liked that he was able to look at who he was and possibly move on, and that she was able to see that there was progress. But I feel like if their relationship were to continue, that it would do so, and it's it's just slowly build up to something rather than just jump right back in full blown passion. Lord Fryer, thank you for. I mean, because there's also that idea of them being addicts, So, is them being together, is that an act of relapse, or could they possibly get to a place where they could be healthy and entertain the idea of having a real relationship that's not built off of the scam and the thrill from the scam. Lord Fryer, thank you for $2. Not to say they don't love each other, because obviously they do. We watched that for a long time, but just saying that it also happens to be a component of what draws them to each other, is that they really got off on the scamming together. Oh man, a Big Daddy Longlegs just climbed on my body. Sorry to hear that, Lord Fryer. Hopefully that got sorted out. It's been kind of a while since you asked, or since you mentioned that. So I hope that wasn't a big. Okay, so I don't know how many times that says snow. It says snow more than once. Thank you for the 10. Pete, thanks so much for all the content. You did great. What do you think Jimmy meant when he says, I tried, I could have tried harder? Not letting Chuck's negativity define him, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I thought about this for a while. It was the clip that I used to open the video with, and I think I don't know. I mean, it's something that what I guess I'll say what I like about it. What I like about this is it's universal. It's something that you can apply to yourself, and something that you've met, like you felt like you could have done better with. Whatever that thing is, we all have one, if not multiple ones, where we, like regrets. The time machine question answers. And that's what I really loved about this, is that his character, he says, I could have tried harder, and it could go across so many different things. But he's talking about Chuck, and I don't know I don't know what he thinks of as the solution for that, because Chuck was mentally ill. Chuck was completely set in his ways, and he was out to get Jimmy specifically, and so I don't know if there's a solution, but I do understand what that feels like, to feel like that you wanted that you did something, but you could have tried harder, and you don't get another chance because that person's gone. And I think that's what resonates with me. If you have a specific thing that you think that he can do, um, I think you could probably make it work. Great question, though. I'd like it. Lord Fryer, Pete Peppers, how much for Gail Bedecker feet pics? Gail's dead, so I can't say that I got a connect for that right now. Let's see. Lord Fryer, you're a busy guy here, huh? Thanks for the $2. Walt Jr. lives for his breakfast, dies for his breakfast. So true. I think this means that we're getting towards the end. We're almost caught up in the real time. Here's one. James Casatelli, thank you for the 5. Ed the Disappearer got busted too if they found his card in the dumpster, which they probably did. That makes me sad. I guess that's a possibility. It's not one that I had considered. He had a lot of stuff in that box. Would that stand out as what it actually is? I'm not sure. I hope not. That's a downer that I don't need. I liked Ed the Disappearer. He was a criminal, that's for sure, but gotta love Robert Forster, and you know, it's just he just played a great role in this story. And that is the last of the comments. So I am going to get out of here. We're at 3 hours 30. I think I reached my limit a while ago. If I don't see any more in the next minute or so, I'm gonna be gone because I need some rest. Yesterday was a really long day, and this always takes a little bit out of you whenever you do this for a few hours. But I want to thank everybody. I really, this was a blast, the whole thing. I got another one here. Sachin HJ, thank you for the 201 of 3. 1/3. When the prisoners start chanting Better Call Saul, I kind of momentarily felt exhilarated. Maybe Jimmy has more exciting things ahead with all the support and opinion among convicts and accused. Well, I mean, I think it serves. I think the purpose that it serves in the story is to let us know that he's not going to get murdered on his first night there. But like I said, as long as I don't care if he thrives in prison, as long as he doesn't revert to being Saul, because that's not a good place for him. I mean, if this show showed us anything, that being Saul as a coping mechanism, it doesn't pay off for Jimmy McGill, and it could, it won't end well. That's the thing. It won't end well. Even if he starts to get ahead and it looks good, nothing good will come out of it. And 1 of 3. I don't really understand this. Does that mean that there's another one coming? Because I only see 1, not 2. 1/3 when because it doesn't make sense with the sentence if it was just it's the thing. So I don't know if you have a follow-up for this, now's the time, because I'm running out of gas here. Oh, there's one. Travis and Nova. Let me take a sip before. My big takeaway was Chuck's message to Jimmy about regrets. It's never too late to change your path. Yeah, it's a good one. It's not something I keyed on in the first watch because of the fact that he turns it around on him. He says, "When did you ever change your path?" But you're right. That's what we saw play out. So it's cool. I enjoy it. AD Acevedo, thank you for the 5. I really think they purposely played on the whole Breaking Bad theme and made this Breaking good, man. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that. It's a little on the nose, but it doesn't mean it's not true. Christian Driscoll, thank you for the 25. That is very generous, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much for these live streams and your recaps. I've enjoyed it so much. And yeah, thank you. I think that I see you in the mention or in the notifications in Twitter quite a bit, and I appreciate that too. It's really humbling to have people who show up every week, like I've said. It's great fun. I feel lucky. And, you know, I work pretty hard on this stuff, so I feel like, you know, it gives me a reason to continue to do that and to feel good about it. So I appreciate it. Sanction HJ, thank you for the 100. But then I realized it is against where he is now. He wants to be Jimmy McGill and not Saul Goodman. All right, so is this 2 or 3? One of 3 said they're chanting. Yes. Yes, we're in agreement. That's what I was saying whenever I read your first one, Sachin, that I don't care if he thrives. I want him to be Jimmy. He does that, and they turn. You know, he says that I'm Jimmy, and they say Saul, and you see it later when he's cooking the bread that they call him Saul again. So yeah, as long as they're not, you know, as long as he's able to still pursue that, then it is what it is. You know, you have to survive. That's the nature of prison, right? You're not free. You got to deal with a lot of stuff. None of it's good. Lord Fryer, thank you for the 2. Show was great, but a little heavy on coincidence. I mean, maybe that's valid, but I think it avoided being, you know, having things that were completely contrived. I think it did pretty good, relatively. Nothing's perfect. I wouldn't say that this show is either, but I really enjoy it, and you know, they really deserve everything good that comes to them because they pulled off an amazing thing by bringing this series to completion. And with that, oh, Sanchin, there's your 3 out of 3. Whatever, man, a very sad and sobering moment for me. Karma gets you. Oh, now I don't know what the connection is here. Yes, I'm following what you're saying there. That's what I said. You know, they, even though he wants to be Jimmy, they want him to be Saul. But I mean, it's not. But what we're seeing doesn't match up with that. You know, if it's bringing you down in there, like you see that that's happening, but you see that he's still resisting it. You know what I mean? Like nobody's making him be Saul Goodman. I don't feel like that's the story there. I feel like the story is that he can't escape it. Not that easy, not that clean, but he can still choose to be Jimmy. So, all right, guys, I'm going to get out of here now. I appreciate everything. It's been a blast. Please continue to follow my channel, and you know, I do every show just about the same. I try to put everything I can into it, and if you like the shows that I'm watching, or if you haven't heard of them, maybe check them out, and maybe we can watch it together. And I'm going to leave you with that. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.